Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
What's up, everybody, and welcome. You are watching/listening to the Command Zone podcast with your host, Jimmy Wong.
And also Rachel Weeks.
What? Rachel Weeks?
Also me.
I like that a lot. What a great team up, because today we are talking about team ups from March of the Machines, also known as MOM, which I think we'll just call that from now on.
It's just one machine, Jimmy.
Just one machine. March of the Machine. Sorry. But March of the Moms?
March.
It is March. Well, it's March when we're recording this. Anyway,
Yeah.
There are new team-up commanders. This is like really exciting stuff. They basically just took legendary creatures and mashed them together into one legendary creature, not like they're symbiotically. They're just like next to each other, teamed up.
Yeah, they're just fighting together on the battlefield, back-to-back style.
Yeah, to stop the Phyrexian threat.
Yeah, there's a ton of these, so we're not going to cover them all in one episode. This is part one of those.
Uno, yeah. Before we get into it, we got to talk about our sponsors. Rachel, take it away.
Yeah. If you hear about some cards that you like in this episode, go to cardkingdom.com/command. That's a great way to support the show while getting the magic cards that we know that you want. Card Kingdom's great because you can put in a list of all the cards you want, and you can pick the version that you want.
Quality, everything, yeah.
Yeah, they've got a huge amount of inventory, so you can always get the cards you want in one package, and they'll show up, and you'll be ready to build. Especially with when set season comes around, you're going to want to be building decks, and Card Kingdom is a great place to do it. So go to cardkingdom.com/command to get your cards and support the show while you're doing it.
And another way to support the show is at ultrapro.com/command. That's our affiliate link for UltraPro's site. You can pick up all sorts of sleeves, deck boxes, playmats, you name it, wall scrolls, binders with cool art on them. ultrapro.com/command has everything that they release typically. A lot of times LGSs don't have it all. You can also buy it at your LGS and support us the same way. But if you want to go to the online digital version, get it shipped to you, ultrapro.com/command. It's got everything you need there. So make sure you check it out. They got an awesome newsletter and sometimes some great deals on older products, so you can save a lot of money as well. All right. We also wanted to mention that we will be at Game Nights Live in Minneapolis. We're doing another one of our live shows then. It's May 5th to the 7th. We're going to have links.
MagicCon.
Yeah, I can't wait. There's links in the show notes to buy tickets. If you're in the area or you want to fly in, we don't do much stuff on the East Coast. We did Philly, and now we're going to do Minneapolis. So there's a great chance to meet us, the staff. A lot of us are going to be there.
Mm-hmm. Not quite to the coast, but close.
Close to the coast. East-ish.
To the coast of the lakes.
Further than where you usually go.
Game Nights Live is an incredible experience. It's so much fun. It's so electric. It's the craziest way to watch Commander. So make sure that you get your tickets to MagicCon Minneapolis and come see us.
Yep. Also, we are looking for freelance writers and video editors right now, freelancing. So if you're interested, have some spare time, and you think you might be a good candidate, you can check out the link in the show notes. Again, this is for freelance contractors, so writers as well as video editors. Links in the show notes. We occasionally do this. This is your chance to potentially get us a chance to work with us in some way. So check out the show notes, and you'll find all the details there about how to apply and everything else.
The last way to support the show is directly go to patreon.com/commandzone to support the show and become one of our patrons. We shout out one lucky patron every episode, and this episode is dedicated to Alec McPhillips. You rock, Alec.
You do. That's a really cool name. All right, let's get right into it. Team Up Commanders from March of the Machine, singular. There are, however, plural, 19 total Team Up Commanders. We can't cover them all in one episode, nor would you watch that episode. So we're just going to do two episodes on this. This is part 1 of 2.
Remember, these are the legendary commanders that team up two iconic legendaries that you know and love and combine their abilities into some cool new combination.
Yeah.
So like Thalia and the Gitrog monster.
Who are the 5?
The buddies till the end. It's like 19 different buddy cop movies.
Yeah.
Cards.
It's pretty cool. It's the kind of thing that you would do as a kid, being like, what if these creatures were the same one? They could do this. And a lot of that is on display here. We are going to skip a couple of commanders that just don't naturally lend themselves to being in the format. They're more like limited or standard or like those types of cards.
Or in the 99.
Yeah. Or they're just so similar to commanders we've covered in the past. You can obviously keep talking about those in the comments and let us know if you thought we should have covered them. But we're just going to cover what we think is the most relevant to you, the commander player at home, watching or listening, doing whatever you do.
This first one is sweet. Let's get right into it. It's Baral and Kari Zev.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're going back to Kaladesh here. It's 1 blue and a red for a legendary human. It has first strike and menace. It's a 2/4. It says whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery each turn, you may cast a spell with lesser mana value that shares a card type with it from your hand without paying its mana cost. If you don't, create a First Mate Ragavan, a legendary 2/1 red monkey pirate creature token. It gains haste until end of turn.
Okay, wow, so much text.
Lots going on.
Okay, first up, just as a creature, it's got first strike and menace, and that's the Kari Zev part.
That's the Kari Zev of it all.
Yeah, and she also, or together, they can also make Ragavan, which is this 2/1 monkey with haste, and it's just a low token.
But if you don't want to make a token, you can cast
and
an
you don't
instant.
care about first strike or menace.
Yeah, you can cast an instant or a sorcery, and then cast a cheaper matching either instant or sorcery that has less mana value than the one you just
free.
cast. Yeah, just a real 2-for-1 there. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Baral and Kari Zev, sweet.
Yeah, this card is just, as you can tell, instantly powerful anytime you can get free casts of anything. And it also says very specifically, we don't see the text each turn that often. Usually it's like the first spell you cast on your turn. So having each turn here means that you could potentially play Kari Zev, Baral and Kari Zev, pass turn, cast something, instant speed, get 2 things out of it. That person passes his turn, do it again, and then it's back to your turn.
Yeah.
So
you're out of spells? Make a monkey.
Yeah, make a monkey. Exactly. Yeah, and it's not like you're not getting the benefit at the end of it.
Yeah.
So this is pretty sweet. I think that instants are going to be much more valuable than sorceries in this deck, unless you can give them flash. But you could get 3 to 4 additional spells every turn. That sounds incredibly powerful.
And I think focusing down on either instants or sorceries is going to make your deck more synergistic and more powerful, because if you cast an instant, you can only cast an instant for free. So you don't want to have like 50% instants and 50% sorceries and then have like...
Yeah, you draw a hand that's just instants and sorceries and you can't cast it. The mana values don't match up. You can't cascade into the things. Yeah.
You really want them to coordinate. And instants do seem stronger because you can do it so many times.
So many times, yeah. So cards that I instantly thought about are cards that are going to draw cards when they cast it so that you can keep refilling your hand, or cards that also untap things. Now, keep in mind that this is a cast trigger. You cast something and then you do the new free cast. You don't cast it, resolve the first spell, and then do the next one. But you still want cards that are going to refill your hand and give you more gas to keep going.
Yeah, you want to keep churning through that deck.
Yeah, so Frantic Search, it's 2 in the blue. You draw 2, discard 2, and untap up to 3 lands. This could either be the first instant you cast or the next one you cast. If you cast a 4-drop and then you instantly Frantic Search on top, you're going to untap lands, you're going to have another spell below that, and then you probably draw something that you can do it again with.
Right. Frantic Search notably isn't card advantage, but it's great selection, which is as good in this deck because it means that the cards in your hand, you're going to be able to cast when you want to cast them.
Yeah. Intellectual Offering is one of those old cards where you and opponents get to choose stuff, but I think in this case it's great. It's 4 in the blue, choose an opponent, you and that player each draw 3 cards, and then you choose an opponent, could be the same one, untap all non-land permanents you control, and to untap all non-land permanents that player controls.
Yeah, so, and it's an instant.
Yeah, so imagine, I tap out, I pass turn. On your upkeep, Intellectual Offering, I'm going to choose you to untap all your non-land permanents. They're like, oh, well, I guess they're untapping anyway. I can't use the extra mana. I'd get no value out of this, but you do, and you choose someone else that maybe is behind or can't affect you that much with the 3 cards. So you're just doing a ton here, and you're controlling the timing of it, and you get to do more with the spell.
Yeah, and you cast a free spell or make a monkey.
Yeah, or make a monkey. A free blocker at instant speed is nice too. And then there's cards like Snap that bounce a creature but untap 2 cards at 2 mana. Turnabout, a classic Storm card where you can untap or tap all the things. And then I think if you want to give your sorceries flash.
Yeah, if you want to go more on the sorcery side and you still want to take advantage of that each turn clause.
Blue's got tons of this. Leyline of Anticipation and Vidalcan Orrery are both cards that give all your cards flash speed. And so then you can just make the sorcery deck and blammo. You're just off to the races.
We're joking about this monkey, but I think he does come into play in some of the spells in Is It? Like there are spells that give you value if you sacrifice a permanent in addition. So something like a Perilous Research, which is a 2-mana instant in blue that says draw 2 cards, then sacrifice a permanent. So if you cast this, you make the monkey as the cast trigger, and then you draw 2.
Cast it. Yeah. If you don't cast that extra spell, then you make a monkey.
Yeah. So if you choose not to cast something cheaper because it's only 2 mana, you could make a monkey, draw 2 cards, and then sacrifice the monkey you just made, and now you've got 2 mana, draw 2 at instant speed.
Wow.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Read the Runes is similar. It's blue and an X for an instant. It says draw X cards. For each card drawn this way, discard a card unless you sacrifice a permanent. So if you draw 3 cards, this turns it into like...
Draw 3, discard 2.
Draw 3, discard 2.
Yeah.
Or if you have multiple permanents, you can sack. I think this Read the Runes is actually quite flexible in this deck.
Yeah, because you could cast it for X is equal to 5, and then because you have a 5 drop in your hand, so it costs 6, and then you can cast it for 5. Yeah, that's really cool. And I think in this deck, too, you're not looking to draw and hold cards in your hand. You're drawing, you're discarding, you're looting, you're trying to get card selection, because you're really just trying to piece up a certain combo of things each sort of turn cycle.
I wanted to mention, because it's very common, it's common recently, is a lot of instants and sorceries have sacrifice a permanent as an additional cost. That works with the monkey, but not that turn. So let's talk, like, a little chat is 1 and a blue for an instant with casualty 1.
Right.
It says, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other on the bottom of your library. Casualty says, as you cast this spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power 1 or greater if you do copy this spell.
Right.
So when you cast a little chat, you have to have sacked something already to get the casualty cost.
Right. So
you already have to have the monkey when you cast it.
Yeah. So it's maybe I pass turn, I do something on Rachel's turn, get a monkey, pass turn again. All right. On this turn, I'll start things off with a little chat, sacrificing the monkey. But then, if you don't do the second spell, you get the monkey back.
You get the monkey back.
Ah, okay.
So it's sort of a free casualty, but it is a little bit slower. You do have to have casted. This has to be like your second spell after casting Baral and Kari Zev.
Right.
So that one's pretty good. Audacious Swap is also pretty fun in a deck like this. 3 in red for casualty 2. It's an instant. It says the owner of target non-enchantment permanent shuffles it into their library, then exiles the top card of their library. If it's a land card, they put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, they may cast it without paying its mana cost.
So that's cool. It's kind of like a Chaos Warp in a bit. But in this case, you get to casualty your monkey away and you tuck 2 different things that aren't enchantments, because this is a red card.
Yeah. So you could hit your own stuff and just see what comes off the top, or you could deal with a couple of problem permanents.
Yeah. All right. That's a cool synergy. Moving on to my favorite part of this outline, which is polymorphing.
Yeah, you've got a little monkey. Let's turn him into something else. This is a cool polymorph spell that I haven't seen before, actually. It's Chaos Mutation.
It's a Warhammer one.
It's Warhammer. 3 blue and a red for an instant. Notably, I like instants for polymorph spells because you can make the monkey on your turn and then polymorph him on end step or after you already have the monkey in play.
Yeah.
It says, exile any number of target creatures controlled by different players. For each creature exiled this way, its controller reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a creature card. Put that card onto the battlefield, then put the rest on the bottom of their library in a random order.
Nice.
So it's 5 mana. You can only hit one of your own creatures, but you're like, okay, I have this monkey in play. I'll choose my monkey. I'll choose your Atali. I'll choose...
Right.
And then you guys...
4 creatures, basically.
Yeah, up to 4 creatures. Obviously, you don't want to choose any sort of little things unless you're trying to help somebody out. But if they've got something scary on board and you're like, that's going to be one of the top hits in your deck, it becomes a removal spell and a polymorph spell.
Yeah, you can also just cast it for 5 mana to get rid of one thing.
Yeah.
2 things, right? It's any number. So it's really flexible. Yeah. And obviously, sometimes you'll flip the good thing on their board into an even scarier thing. But sometimes you also just are out of things to do and you have to get rid of something.
Yeah, but that's Commander.
Yeah. Same thing goes for Divergent Transformations. This is a 7 mana Chaos Mutation type spell, but instead it has Undaunted, so it's going to cost less for each opponent you have. And this is you can exile 2 target creatures to basically do the same thing. Pretty good stuff.
Yeah, Reweave is another instant speed polymorph spell that can hit any permanent. So it's a little more flexible. Again, the instant speed I think is really important in these because you will already have the monkey, and it means you can cast your instants.
Yep. Although, do you have to choose targets before you cast the spell?
Yeah, it's like the sacrifice ones where you already need to have the monkey in play.
Before you can, yeah.
Right. So if you cast a spell, if you cast Baral and Kari Zev on your turn and then you cast a cantrip, you make a monkey and then you hold up mana, or next turn you polymorph. Yeah.
Yep. Other great cards to take use of that monkey, Idol of Oblivion, means you're tapping it to draw a card every turn you make a token. So that's, again, just another way to just keep the train going, which is important.
Relic of Legends, you can tap an untapped legendary you control, add 1 mana of any color. So if you have a monkey, you can tap it. And then if you haven't made a monkey yet this turn, you can make another monkey. This one's untapped.
Yeah.
Sacrifice the tapped one.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's a cool mana engine. And then I like Mirror Box in this deck.
Oh, just make tons of monkeys.
Make tons of monkeys. Make a monkey every turn.
Yeah. I mean, there will be times when you just don't have, or it's not the right time to cascade your little instants or sorceries into the crazy thing. So yeah, just making more monkeys and having a board. A bunch of 2/1s is no joke. You also have to get a bunch of the tokens if you do that.
Yeah, you gotta have as many little. He's got like a specific name in this one. He's First Mate.
First Mate
Ragavan.
I haven't been following the lore of Ragavan. I played Kari Zev a long time ago in game nights, but I'm assuming he's just moving up the ranks.
Oh yeah. He's been working hard.
He became from a nimble pilferer to first
He's
mate.
going to be a captain soon.
That's great. And then it's going to be Ragavan, a new Ragavan legendary creature.
Ragavan, Planeswalker. All right, let's talk about good things to cast with this free spell trigger. Because that's sort of the cool part of this deck. I think there's the neatest thing you can do, in my opinion, is you can cast a spell and then cast a free fork effect.
Oh, so you get the spell twice.
So you get, so you basically just copy the big spell that you cast. So something like a Reverberate is red. It says copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. So if you cast like you cast your big polymorph spell or something like that, and then you cast a Reverberate on top
for free.
of it, and now you get extra ones. Yep.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Obviously, doing that, there's going to be some sort of infinite thing, I think, going on with this. We're not going to get into it. I'm sure the internet has already devised 20,000 different ways to go infinite with this commander.
It's only the first time.
Yeah, but I mean, getting 2 spells for free is just the road to creating some sort of engine with we already mentioned turnabouts and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
If you're untapping things and going over and over again, even though it's just you just need to get the engine going. I'm sure there's something out there.
Yeah.
There's also cards that have no mana cost. Now, are these spells, these suspend spells, affected by and can do the same thing with Kari Zev?
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, we have Inevitable Betrayal, Wheel of Fate, Ancestral Vision. These all don't have a mana cost on the top right because you're supposed to suspend them. So you pay a mana cost and you put little time counters on it. You remove the counters. When they're gone, you can cast it for free. Lots of spells and decks in the history of Magic have made use of these to find ways to cascade into them and get them out for free. But they're all really good. Inevitable Betrayal is basically, what's that called? Bribery. Wheel of Fate is a Wheel of Fortune, and Ancestral Vision is Ancestral Recall. So pretty strong stuff. Now, these are all sorceries, keep in mind, so you can't instant speed these things, but I think no matter what, this deck will have a mix of instants and sorceries. We're just saying make sure you focus on one or the other. Yeah. But drawing one of these later in the game and just knowing no matter what sorcery you draw, if it's 1 mana, 5 mana, 7 mana, you can cast this as a result for free. Pretty sweet for the suspend stuff.
Really, really cool synergy there. The other option is casting really high mana spells that you are reduced for some reason. They have some sort of cost reduction on them, whether that's Delve or just an ability of the spell. Like a Blasphemous Act, for example, is a 9 mana sorcery, but it costs less for each creature on the battlefield. So if you cast Blasphemous Act for 1 red, it still is a 9 mana spell. So you could follow that up with some sorcery that's less than 9 mana for free.
Yeah. You could follow it up with this next one that also has a mana reduction, but you could go Blasphemous Act to Treasure Cruise. Or you could go Treasure Cruise into something else because that's an 8 mana spell. But you can delve. So sometimes this costs 3, 2, or even just 1 mana.
Yeah. Again, these are sorceries, so you could follow it up with one of your free spells, or you could follow it up just with one of any big, powerful sorceries in the game.
Yeah.
The next one is an instant and helps you cheat instants into play. It's Dig Through Time. 6
really
blue for an instant. It also has Delve. It's a card draw spell, but it means you can cheat anything in that's 8 or less than 8 CMC.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like Dig Through Time a lot. If you want to get gross with it, I think extra turn spells is really where things get nasty, because let's say you cast a Treasure Cruise and then for free you cast a Time Warp. Like, that's nuts. Or even a Time Stretch, that's like a 10 mana spell, and then you cast an Expropriate off of that. You pretty much win the game.
Yeah.
On the spot.
It's anything that it's letting you cheat the mana cost on this second spell because the first spell has mana reduction on it.
Yeah.
Temporal Trespass is good for this kind of thing as well. It's another Delve spell.
Yeah, and I also think, again, the way to get more competitive with this is that you're casting draw 7s as well. So something like Time Spiral is 6 mana. You're going to be able to untap 6 lands and also cast something and get a new hand. So you cast Time Spiral, you have a 5-drop or whatever after that, and then you ditch your hand, you get a fresh 7 untapped lands. You're in a ridiculously commanding position because you don't need the extra special stuff from Kari Zev and Baral at that point. You can just cast your Time Warp and just keep going off. Same with all the other draw 7s, Wheel of Misfortune, Reforge the Soul, Magus of the Wheel, Windfall. I think the way that this deck really powers out is just doing powerful stuff, and then when you look at the player's hand, they've got another 7 cards and can just keep the train going.
Yeah, I particularly like Reforge the Soul because you can miracle it for 2 on your turn and then cheat anything 5 or less into play.
Yeah, pretty good.
Pretty fun.
On the stack. All right, next up, we have a new commander called Borborygmos and Fblthp.
Yeah, 2 very difficult to pronounce commanders combined on the battlefield.
I feel like those uncards that are like, how many vowels and syllables do you have in your card would love this one. Fblthp is also just very cute. Borborygmos might not even realize Fblthp is there, to be honest.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
So this is 2, a green, blue, and a red, so Teamer, for a 6/5 Cyclops Homunculus. Whenever B and F enter the battlefield or attacks, draw a card, then you may discard any number of land cards. When you discard 1 more cards this way, B and F deals twice that much damage to target creature. So if you draw a card and then discard 2 land cards, it's going to deal 4 damage. 3 land cards, you can deal 6 damage to a creature. And then you can pay 1 in blue at instant speed to put Borborygmos and Fblthp into its owner's library, 3rd from the top. So He hides. The first part is Borborygmos. Borborygmos, whatever. Bori. And the second part is Fblthp's ability.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is cool. Discard lands, do a ton of damage.
Yeah, it sounds like the Borborygmos that we know and love, Borborygmos Enraged. I think I've played Borborygmos Enraged before, and the hardest thing about it is just getting lands in your hand.
Okay.
So that's our first category here, is how are we drawing our lands? And one that I think is underplayed in this kind of deck is Dryad Greenseeker. It's 1 and a green for a Dryad. It's a 1/3. It says, it has a tap activated ability that says, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may reveal it and put it into your hand.
Okay.
So these decks tend to have a high concentration of lands. They're like usually running 40 to 42 lands. So you have a higher odds to hit it, to hit on a land, and tap just draw a card is really powerful.
Yeah. There's also so many sorceries like Winding Way that says choose creature or land, reveal the top 4 cards of your library, put all cards of the chosen type revealed this way into your hand, and the rest into your graveyard.
Mulch.
Mulch, and you want to be putting stuff in your graveyard because this deck 100% plays Life from the Loam.
Oh, yeah.
Return up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard to your hand, and then you can dredge it, get it back into your hand, dredge more lands in your graveyard, and you're also discarding them with Borborygmos, so you just have the ability to constantly bring stuff back.
Yeah, just 2 mana, draw 3 cards in this deck, especially, it's like draw 6 damage, basically, a Life from the Loam. One of the best lands in the deck is definitely Ghost Town. This is a colorless land that has an activated ability that says 0: return Ghost Town to its owner's hand. Use this ability only during another player's turn. So if you can get it onto the battlefield, you can keep discarding it.
Right. You can get discard it, Life from the Loam back to your hand. You can play it again, tap it, return it to your hand for 0, discard it.
Yeah. You can play it as your land drop with Crucible of Worlds or Raminap Excavator, and then keep returning it back to your hand.
Yep. This is another great card we've talked about a couple of times on the show now.
I think it's sweet.
It's Paradise Lost, like Paradise Lost. 3 green instant, roll 2d6, return any number of cards with mana value X or less from your graveyard to your hand, where X is the total of those results, and then you exile this. So, mana value X or less, if you rolled even just Snake Eyes 1/1, doesn't matter. You can return any number of lands to your hand, right?
Right. And hypothetically, this deck is going to have a lot of lands in the graveyard. So if you roll well, you could get some permanents back from your graveyard that you've been dredging in there, or you could just get all your lands from your graveyard to your hand at instant speed.
Very cool. Obviously, Crucible of Worlds, Raminap Excavator, very good in the deck like this, allowing you to play your lands from your graveyard. Fetch lands as well, obviously, are going to be good because you can play the land from your graveyard, fetch it, get another land on the battlefield, and that other land back in the graveyard. So it's almost like you're doubling up the number of lands that you can now figure out a way to get back into your hand with Life from the Loam or whatever else.
Yeah.
Or to thin out your deck.
All right, this is also a discard deck, as Borborygmos often is. So we're going to have some discard synergy. We're going to add some extra damage when you discard cards with cards like Glinthorn Buccaneer. 1 red for a Minotaur Pirate. He's a 2/4 with haste. It says whenever you discard a card, Glinthorn Buccaneer deals 1 damage to each opponent. It also has an activated ability, 1 in a red, discard a card, then draw a card. Activate this ability only if Glinthorn Buccaneer is attacking. So in a deck like this, you attack with your commander, you draw, and then you have an opportunity to discard, like 3 lands, 4 lands?
Totally.
Then you ping all your opponents for 4 with a Glinthorn Buccaneer, and you shoot you shoot a creature for 8 damage.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Glinthorn is very similar to Brawlin Skyshark Rider, which basically says the same thing. When you discard a card, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, but it also deals 1 damage to each opponent. And so that's, I think, because you can only hit creatures with Borborygmos and Fblthp, you need to figure out ways to get direct damage in as well. Now, this is also just a 6/5 attacking on the ground, so oftentimes you're just going to smack for a bunch of damage. But this is how you can either clear the blockers with the trigger of the lands, hit them for 6, and then you're going to need just a little bit more juice on top to close out games.
Yeah, for sure. Because you're only going to be hitting for 6, like 1 person for 6. So making sure you can divvy it up and get as much value when you discard cards as possible is really important. This next one is kind of fun in this deck. It's All-Seeing Arbiter. It's 4 and a blue for an avatar. It's a 5/4 with flying. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Whenever you discard a card, target creature and opponent controls get -X, -0 until your next turn, where X is the number of different mana values among cards in your graveyard.
Nice.
Yeah, so if you discard 3 lands, you trigger this 3 times.
Yeah, 3 creatures get -3, -0 or whatever.
Yeah, and that's just makes an easy attack with your commander on the board. Plus, when this thing attacks, it draws even more cards, which is going to be really important because you're discarding so much.
Oh, right. All-Seeing Arbiter itself draws and discards.
Yeah,
and it's a 5/4 flyer.
Yeah.
So
it's a bit of a beater. I mean, it's 6 mana, which is expensive, but you can get a lot of value off of this thing.
Yeah, totally. There's also Change of Fortune, which just really gets you there because of discard 3 in a red for a sorcery. Discard your hand and draw a card for each card you've discarded this turn.
That counts all the cards that you've discarded with Borborygmos.
Yeah, and it could be already 3 from attacking, and then you have a Brawlin or a Buccaneer out, then you're just dealing tons of damage.
Yeah, Change of Fortune has been really good in my old Borborygmos deck, so gotta get it in here.
Yeah, there's also, I forget the name of it, but it's a 2-mana artifact from Kamigawa that lets you play cards you discard this turn. Containment Construct, I think, yeah. So those effects, right, you're going to want to be finding that kind of synergy, because your ultimate turn is you're playing Borborygmos, you're like, cool, do all this stuff, and then I'm going to play that land here, I'm going to dredge here and do this there, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, you just killed 2 things, and you made something -X, -0, and you're swinging in for 6, and we just took 5 damage from this other effect. How do we stop this? You've got 5 different pieces all working together. Which one do you remove first? That's a good position to be in.
So you can only hit creatures with Borborygmos and Fblthp's ability, which means it's a little bit limited. But if you don't want to focus on just getting a ton of lands and dealing a ton of damage to individual creatures, you could just give them Death Touch.
Aha!
And just discard 1 land, shoot something for 2. You can take out anything.
There you go, yeah. And a lot of times I think you should not be relying on getting the full discard 3 every time.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
It's a really tough engine to keep up. So giving him Death Touch is just means that if you have 1 land or if you have 2 lands, you can still take out those major threats.
Yeah. So Basilisk Caller does that. Also gives him lifelink, which is kind of cool.
Gross.
Gorgon's Head. These are all like Josh Lee Kwai staples because he uses them on pingers, but now you can put it on a giant Borborygmos, Cyclops, Minotaur, Fblthp, Homunculus.
If you want that damage to start going face, if you're tired of hitting creatures, add in Repercussion, 1 red for an enchantment. It says whenever a creature is dealt damage, Repercussion deals that much damage to that creature's controller.
Nice.
So if you discard 4 lands and you blast a creature for 8, now that 8 also...
Well, 3 lands.
3 lands.
Yeah.
Well, at 4 lands, you make 8?
Well, I thought it's discard up to 3 cards.
No.
Oh, any number of land cards. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You could discard 20 lands.
Yeah. Shoot a creature for 40. One-shot your opponent.
Repercussion also reminds me of Toralf, God of Fury, which basically is like trample damage, 4 damage done to creatures, direct damage. So if you hit something for 8, but it's only got 1 toughness, then you're doing the rest to something else.
Yeah,
so
that's a great idea in this deck.
Yeah, and Repercussion with that on top, people are just going to be dying.
Yeah.
Just straight up. And then you have all the damage doublers like Torbrand, and then adds damage, and then all the other, Furnace of Wrath type effects can really get this going.
This deck is winning with damage, so anything that makes it more is very strong.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about hitting your opponent's stuff, but there are a lot of ways. It just says target creature. And there are a lot of ways to take advantage of hitting your own stuff with damage.
Ooh, okay.
So I like the idea of including Stuffy Doll in this deck. Stuffy Doll enters and you choose target player, and then whenever Stuffy Doll is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to the chosen player.
Ooh, okay.
So you can start throwing lands at Stuffy Doll and start pinging people in the face.
Yeah.
Brash Taunter is right at home in a deck like this.
Yeah.
Plus you have a 6/5 that he can fight.
That's a good point. I really like this actually a lot because you need to find ways to convert Borborygmos' damage away from creatures to players. And Repercussion is one of the ways to do it. Torolf, Stuffy Doll, Brash Taunter all fall in that category.
Yeah. There's a lot of these effects in red. One I really like is Coal Hauler Swine. It's 4 red, and it's whenever Coal Hauler Swine is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to each player.
Ooh.
So it is just a 4/4. It doesn't have indestructible. So if you throw 8 lands at it,
it's dying.
It's dying. But you'll deal 16 damage to each player, including yourself. But each player. Yeah. So it really, really converts those lands into a win con.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. And typically you're going to want to wait to do this before you drop.
Yeah, that's going to be a big finish.
Yeah. Fiend Lash is an equipment that does it. But you also have all the enraged creatures, like the dinosaurs. Like Ripjaw Raptor is a 4/5. When it's dealt damage, you draw a card, but you can just toss 1 land at it.
Yeah,
you don't actually have to kill it, which is pretty cool.
Silverclad Ferocidons is expensive but powerful. 5 red. Whenever it is dealt damage, each opponent sacrifices a permanent.
Ooh.
So if you just throw 1 land at it, 2 damage every turn, they're sacrificing a permanent every turn.
Yeah. And then again, you're in Temur. You got lots of options here. Illusory Ambusher. Whenever it's dealt damage, you draw that many cards. This could be a no good target. It's going to hit this thing for 16 here. Or whatever,
yeah, I'll draw 16 cards.
Now, this is Magical Christmas Land. Let's say even if it's discard 2 cards, kill your Illusory Ambusher, draw 4. Still pretty good. And then you can also just, if you really want to go this route and put all these other creatures in, you can probably get a couple of indestructible effects in here.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, really easily.
Hornet's Nest is fun in decks like this. Whenever it's dealt damage, you make that many hornets.
Nice.
And a new one, Vrondis. Rage of the Ancients. He has Enrage, and whenever he is dealt damage, you may create a 5/4 red and green dragon spirit creature token with when this creature deals damage, sacrifice it.
Yeah, or just the best blockers ever. Just random 5/4s on your battlefield.
On the battlefield. I've played decks like this. They don't have a great defense because you spend so much mana on a creature that has to attack.
Yeah.
So having something that can build up a board and make sure you don't just get smacked in return is very valuable.
I will say that in those last sort of cards we mentioned, there were 3 5-drops, a 7-drop, a 6-drop, and a 4-drop. So you're going to need a lot of mana, but you're in Temur. So I think you have to build in a lot of land ramp in this deck. And again, playing your cards like Azusa and stuff as well seem to make sense here. If you just have a lot of lands and you're not necessarily, because there will be points where Borborygmos just doesn't get cast. So you're still going to want a way to make use of your land. So having more ways to ramp out and then just play these huge threats. Then on the next turn, you have 12 mana. You can play your commander, do something, and then just get the whole train going. But you don't want to be limited on mana ever in this deck.
This is also a great place for bounce lands.
Oh, yeah.
Because it just turns 2 lands into 1 land, and a land lands in your hand is right where you want them. So
hey, maybe Amulet of Vigor. It's time to put it back into commander decks, people. I've been trying to put this card on the map for a while now. It is in, modern.
It's a good one.
All right, let's move on to Djeru, Jared, and Hazoret. This is our Boros entry. It's 2 red and a white, all the way back on Amonkhet. 5/4 human god. Sounds like me. Just kidding. As long as you have 1 or fewer cards in hand, Djeru and Hazoret has vigilance and haste. Yeah. However, whenever Djeru and Hazoret attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may exile a legendary creature card from among them, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Until end of turn, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost.
What?
Wow. We attack, find a legendary in the top 6, and just cast it for free?
Any legendary of
now
any
you
size.
must obey timing restrictions here, so you can't do it in combat.
Yes.
But let's just talk about the commander at first. So this is a scary attack trigger. What do we want to do when we play it?
Give it haste.
Give it haste. Have it attack. Yeah, so we got tons of ways to do that.
Lightning Greaves, of course, Swiftfoot Boots. This is a scary commander, and it wants to attack. People are going to want to kill it before it attacks.
Instantly, yeah.
Because they never know what's in your deck. So make sure that you have that protection and you have haste.
Yeah, Goro-Goro, the original one, also can give creatures haste. Urabrask gives creatures haste. There's tons of options in red that do this.
And these are legendaries, so it doesn't gum up the synergy in your deck.
Yeah, I personally love Footfall Crater. This is just a land that you can tap in and it says target creature gains trample and haste until end of turn, or you can cycle it away for 1.
Yeah, if you already have a haste enabler.
Yeah. Hall of the Bandit Lord seems very good because you can use this. Again, you pay 3 life to tap to add 1 mana, but if you do it on the creature has haste.
And it's legendary.
And
so
it's
if you
a
have
legendary
legendary synergy in your deck, it goes right along with it.
Yeah, I like that.
It does have a way to give it haste on the card, but it requires that you have 0 to 1 cards in your hand, which usually means you are losing in Commander. So I wouldn't rely on that, but a cute thing I found that you could use is Penance.
Ooh.
It's 2 and a white for an enchantment, and it says choose a card from your hand and put that card on top of your library. Prevent all damage from a black or red source.
Okay, so this is like fog effects, but in this case, it's also take my hand from 5 to 0.
So you could put your hand back on your top of your library and fog stuff. So this can also fog instants and sorceries. You could fog into Blasphemous Act or something like that, which is powerful. But you could also, if you're like, I have this, huge legend in my hand, I want to put it on top of my library so I know I hit it with Djeru and Hazoret.
Yeah. Actually, I like that quite a lot because worst case scenario, I think you're putting every card but 1 so you get the Vigilance haste on your commander if you need it. But otherwise, this is just a great way to recycle cards to the back of your library in red and white.
Right.
Not many options in these colors to do that.
Yeah, it's a cute card. It's maybe worth an inclusion, but...
A card that I think is cute in the deck like this is cards like Master Warcraft, which just is an instant. You can cast it only before attackers are declared. You decide which creatures attack, and you decide how creatures block and how they block. So you can do it for your own, make sure no one blocks and kills your Hazoret, or you can do it on someone else's turn, make them swing their whole board at someone else, and then they, there's always wonky things that happen with Master Warcraft.
That's a really fun card.
But it seems like you don't want your commander to die when it attacks too.
Definitely.
Everyone's going to throw everything in front of it, right?
Yeah. So the next thing I was thinking about in this deck is putting in cast from exile synergies. Particularly Passionate Archaeologist is really good in this deck because it's a legendary spell, so it will go along with whatever your legendary theme might be. But it's 1 in red for a background. It says commander creatures you control have, when you cast a spell from exile, that creature deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. Woo! Notably, Hazoret, cast them from exile.
Yeah.
You may exile a legendary creature from among them, and then you may cast.
Wow.
So you're going to want to be casting big legendaries. This just doubles up on the damage.
Yeah, you're just going to do a lot of damage there. There's lots of cast from exile effects. Wild Magic Sorcerer lets you give Cascade to this first spell you cast that way. Showdown of the Scalds. This is just a great red-white card value engine here where it's a saga. First chapter, you exile the top 4 cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You can play those cards. And then when you do cast spells from this turn on the second and third time, you just put +1/+1 counters on your creatures.
Yeah, if you're including some cast from exile stuff, you definitely want other ways to cast spells from exile.
Yeah.
Valakut Exploration, Lelia the Bladeforged, these are all great in decks like this.
Yeah, and again, there's going to be lots of different cards now in red and white that do this, specifically red.
All right, well, what are we hitting? What is the plan? What is the big legendaries we're casting?
You're in red and white. You have access to legendary colorless creatures as well as everything in red and white. The big baddie that we've seen plenty of times on game nights is Elesh Norn, Grand Cenobite. Both new mom and old mom both seem great, obviously. But this is a 7-drop, and getting it for free with your commander attacking seems pretty game-breaking.
Yeah, Elesh Norn seems huge and makes your commander very annoying to block. Because if they block with a bigger thing and you cast Elesh Norn, then you can kill whatever they blocked with.
Oh, that's right, because it gets -2/-2 afterwards, yeah.
There's huge hits in red and white. Zetalpa Primal Dawn is an annoying thing, especially when you cast it for free.
It's indestructible, by the way, don't forget.
Etali Primal Storm is always good in decks like this. If Etali gets to attack, you get so much value. One I really like, and I've played in my Atla Palani deck, is Yadaro. And he seems goofy, but here's why I like him. So Yadaro is a 7-mana 8/8 with Trample and Haste. He also has cycling, 1 in a red, and it says whenever you cycle Yadaro Wandering Monster, shuffle it into your library from your graveyard. If you've cycled a card named Yadaro Wandering Monster 4 or more times this game, put it onto the battlefield from your graveyard instead. You are not likely going to do that, but The annoying thing about playing decks that cheat huge creatures into play is they get stuck in your hand.
Right.
And Yudaro ups your density of big scary things to hit in the deck.
Yeah.
But if it's in your hand, you can cycle it and it just goes right back into your deck.
Okay.
So it's just like a free card that replaces itself. Where if it hits the battlefield, it's not like a Tali, but it is an 8/8 trample haste. It is a huge attacker.
Yeah, it's going to be scary. It's going to take someone's life total a quarter of the way down.
Yeah.
And then we also have all the Eldrazi, because I don't know if y'all read this card, but it says when Djeru and Hazoret attacks, you do all this stuff, and then it says you may cast the exile card without paying its mana cost.
Ugh, so you do get the cast triggers on the big legendary Eldrazi.
Kozilek, draw 4 cards. Ulamog, destroy target permanent. Emrakul, the promised end. Just take someone else's turn.
Just take someone's extra turn. These are extremely powerful and obviously very expensive because they're so powerful.
Yeah, 10 mana, 11 mana, 13 mana.
The other thing that's great about them is if they hit the graveyard, they shuffle back into your library.
You can just play them again.
So Hazoret can hit them again.
Gross.
Yeah, they're very powerful if you are getting on the spendy side.
Yeah. I guess now that you have this creature in your second main phase, don't you want to find a way to swing with them that same turn?
Uh-huh.
How do you do that?
Oh, Marag, Fury of Akum.
Akum.
This card is insane in the deck. It's 4 red for a Minotaur Warrior. It's a 6/6. Each creature you control gets +1/+0 for each time it has attacked this turn. Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control.
Yeah.
So Marag is the best extra turn creature in this deck.
Right.
By far.
You're going to have your creatures getting haste already from a bunch of different effects. Even if it is like you have Lightning Greaves or whatever out, swing with your commander, cast.
Hit Marag. Like if you hit Marag off of Hazoret,
oh man,
then you cast its second main, play your land, and you get an extra turn combat immediately.
Yeah, you can equip Marag with the Greaves if you want to swing with that. Go again, get another creature. And you're just in there's a gravy train. It's beautiful. You're having a blast.
Extra turn, like extra combat spells are going to be really powerful because your commander has an attack trigger. So Aurelia the War Leader is great. Karlak, Fury of Avernus is great. Those are both legendary creatures with extra combats on them.
Yeah.
But Marag is the best because if you hit it off of your commander, you can get an extra turn that turn.
Extra combat turn.
Extra combat that turn.
Yeah, that moment when it happens. Just hold your land drops if you have Marag. Don't play them earlier than you need to.
Yes.
And then there's also just other ways to put in effects in this deck that allow you to cheat out those creatures. Should your game plan go awry and everyone knows that Djeru and Hazoret is just remove on site, which it should be based on what we just talked about.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's similar to the human commander that when it attacks...
Winota,
yeah. It's right. Got a very similar thing where it's like, just don't let it ever go to combat.
Yeah.
You're in bad news bears time.
Yeah.
So you got Ilharg, the Raised Boar, Perforos, Bronze Blooded. These are both ways to cheat out creatures on the battlefield when you attack. And then just the classic sneak attack.
Yep. Get them out of your hand and onto the battlefield, especially if you have ways to shuffle your graveyard into your library.
Sneak attack plus the Eldrazi is going to be game over because even if you didn't get the cast trigger, you get that Annihilator one, and that's pretty darn good.
Speed.
Yeah.
I like Bruna in this deck as well. You're in Boros. A lot of the big hits that you're casting are angels or humans. But when you cast Bruna the Fading Light, you may return target angel or human from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it is a 5/7 with flying and vigilance.
Does this mean you play Gisela, the Broken Blade?
I would think so.
And then you get to meld them?
Yeah. Oh.
Because then they're like,
they're both
crap,
legendaries.
What the heck am I supposed to remove now?
Yeah. It's I think Bruna and Gisela are right at home in this deck. You get a lot of selection.
There are also cards like Thalia's Lancers and other things that allow you to search a legendary permanence. There's the Snow one as well. So there are ways to really build into these decks because there's actually another legendary commander that you play on game nights that I think you can pretty much look at and go, all right, just take the blackout. This is my deck list.
Oh, yeah. This card definitely goes in the 99 of Dihada, Binder of Wills.
Yeah, pretty sweet.
Mine's an aggressive attack matters aggro deck in Mardu. I'm gonna need a Djeru and Hazoret for sure.
Yeah, and then if you have like a Legendary Matters Ishin deck that you wrote down here, I was like, oh man, Ishin with the double combat trigger.
I mean, just put it in. Yeah, if you've got enough enough legendaries in your deck, which is probably, like, you're looking at the top 6, you probably want at least 20 to 22 legendaries in your deck that you care about hitting, and they have to be creatures. It could go in the 99 there.
Yeah, but it seems like there's more and more legendary matters support these days than ever. And obviously Commander's a huge format, so we're just going to keep seeing more legendary creatures.
Only getting more powerful. Yeah. Very scary Commander.
This is one of those things I always tell people, when you look at abilities and want to gauge how good they are, gauge how well they scale into the future. If it's like, oh, this card creates energy, it's like, all right, this is a limited environment thing that no other things are ever going to ever affect energy. Not so great. But then cards like, hey, this cares about legendary permanence. We're going to get more of those, and they're probably just going to get better and better over time.
For sure.
All right.
Speaking of the next one, I do think this one will scale well into the future. It's
Indeed.
Errant and Giada. 1 white-blue for a human angel. It's a 2/3 with flash and flying. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, and you may cast spells with flash or flying from the top of your library.
Oh, that's so cool.
Pretty good.
Yeah, Errant Street Artist likes flash. Giada is a flyer. So the fact that you can get both flash and flying, that's cool. Because just flying alone, you could build a deck around.
Right.
So this is sweet.
We know that commanders that can cast off the top of their library are powerful.
Yeah.
So this one is a little bit more creature-based, which is fun, and does something a little bit different.
Yeah. White-blue, again, always has trouble figuring out what they want to do. It's either just like straight control or it's like flying people.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's flash and flying. So that's exciting.
These next couple of cards you always put in decks that are casting off the top of their library if you're in these colors, of course. I really like Predict, 1 and a blue for an instant. Choose a card name. Then target player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. If that card has the chosen name, you draw 2 cards. Otherwise, you draw 1 card. You get to know what's on top of your library. So Predict is a 1 and a blue for an instant that like mills 1, draws 2.
This is a lie. You're not predicting at all. You know exactly what's on top of your library.
You see the future. Predict is really good in these decks.
Vega the Watcher, 1 blue, white, 2/2 flying. Definitely goes in this deck because you can just cast it off the top. But also, whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, draw a card.
So if you cast any flyer or any flash creature off the top of your library, you draw an extra card for your trouble.
We'll mention these cards a bunch this episode. Brainstorm and Brainstone. Brainstorm is the instant blue version that draw 3, put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library. Brainstone is the artifact that you pay 1 for, and then you can tap 2 and do it. So you can do that in any deck that wants top deck manipulation.
There's a lot of ways to build this kind of deck. And I think that's the kind of the cool thing about it is you can go to Scryfall and be like, what creatures in white and blue have flash and flying? Which ones do I like?
Yeah.
And you could build the deck that way.
You could just throw all those cards together and make a deck.
And it would be fine. It would be like a perfectly good deck. Because it's got enough surprises and flying is great.
Yeah.
But if you want to build the deck with a little bit more synergy, there are a couple of options for that. Obviously, you can build Flying Matters. You're in white and blue. There's a lot of options here.
Empyrean Angel buffs all your flyers. Watcher of the Spheres make them cheaper to cast. Seems really good. By the way, all these spells are 3 or 2 mana, so efficient. Pride of the Clouds also just gets massive. There's just a lot you can do in the flying colors. As the Gale Force was a commander that came out a couple of years ago now, I think, in Jumpstart, and it just went, hey, look, build a Flying Matters blue-white deck. Don't go the full control route if you don't want to. There's other things to do here.
Right. Donal, Herald of Wings is a great Flying Matters commander that you can look at what's in the 99. It cares specifically about non-legendary creatures with flying, but then he lets you copy.
We just named like 3 of them. So.
Yeah. So Donal is great in a deck like this, even if he doesn't have flying.
Yeah. Gravitational Shift.
Yeah, this card's sweet.
Classic Rise of the Eldrazi card here.
3 blue for an enchantment. It says creatures with flying get +2/+0, and creatures without flying get -2/-0. So you just have this absolute army in the sky, and your opponents can barely crack back at you. So you're very safe to swing out.
Yeah, I like that a lot. You're in blue. You have no problem drawing cards, but you might want to use Winged Words because it costs only 1 in the blue, and you draw 2 cards.
2 mana draw 2s. I love them.
Yep. Okay, now let's talk about flash because, again, blue and white has tons of things that have flash, and some of them even have flying.
I was looking at flash and flying creatures, and the thing that they had in common, especially flash, is that they all have ETBs.
Yeah.
And you're in white and blue, so it felt like there is a very real blink deck that you could build here.
Okay.
Because a lot of the creatures that have blink on them have flash or they have flying, and then a lot of things with flash have ETBs. Right. That's how they design them. So I was looking, this is a blink deck specifically, but a great option like Restoration Angel has both flying and flash. It comes in and it blinks something.
Yeah.
Phantom Steed has flash, and when it enters the battlefield, you exile another target creature you control until Phantom Steed leaves the battlefield, and when it attacks, you make a token copy of it.
Ooh.
So it makes you repeated ETBs.
Yeah, you could put another flicker thing underneath that, or you can just put one of your lords that gives +1/+1 to flyers. Yeah.
Yeah. Flicker Wisp has flying. That's one of the classic blink creatures. And a lot of the blink targets also have either flash or flying. Muldrifter has flying. Venser has flash. Two that I really love from Baldur's Gate are Windshaper Planetar.
Yeah, it's the flash flying when it enters the battlefield during the declare attacker step. For each attacking creature, you may reselect which player or planeswalker that creature is attacking.
Not me over there with that.
Get away from me, yeah.
Or Githzeri Monk, which when it enters the battlefield, just taps all creatures you don't control.
Nice, it's got flash and flying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that a lot. I also love Flicker Wisp because I've seen this just become a token destroyer.
Yeah.
Because you can just flicker another target permanent. See ya.
Cool merit lead.
See ya.
Boink.
Yeah, boink. Now, blue and white, as we mentioned earlier, oftentimes this goes just the full control route. And if you did do that, there's a lot of different things that also have flash that lend towards that strategy, because now you're going the more like, I'm going to peck at you with a few flyers, but really I'm here to just lock down the board. Ghostly Prisons and control cards like Aven Mind Sensor. Flash flying, if the opponent would search a library, that player searches the top 4 cards of that library instead.
Yeah, this deck definitely lends itself to a hate bear build because so many of them have flying or have flash. Archon of Emeria has flying. It says each player can't cast more than one spell each turn. And then non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped.
Wow, Archon is so good, because if you have tons of flash creatures, you play Archon past turn, cast something on your turn, then the next turn, then the next turn. You get 4 spells, they get 1.
Yeah. Archivist of Ogma is a new one. It has flash. Whenever an opponent searches their library, you gain 1 life and draw a card.
Yeah.
So it makes sure that if they're playing combo, they are paying for it.
Yep. Did you know that there's a Planeswalker with flash?
Yep.
It's the Wandering Emperor. Yay! There's a lot of different things you can do, but the Emperor allows you to use her abilities the turn that enters. If you cast it this turn, as long as they enter this turn, you can activate abilities as though they're an instance. Swift Reconfiguration is also an amazing new just staple in white, I think, enchantment-wise. It turns a creature or vehicle into a vehicle. So it just becomes a non-thing, and then they have to crew 5 to put it back into a vehicle status.
It basically means it can attack. Like crewing 5 is so much to get a attack trigger out.
Yeah, but don't do this to a card that like has a consistent enchantment-esque ability.
Yeah, and activated abilities. It also gives creatures with activated abilities haste. So sometimes people will use it on their own creatures to be able to use it right away.
Right.
So Swift Reconfiguration can be. You can blank removal spells with it. If your opponent tries to destroy one of your creatures,
yeah, you're like, no.
You could flash it and be like, oh, it's not a creature, it's a car.
Yeah, and you're gonna want to do that for like your Empyrean Eagle or whatever, because it feels like an enchantment, right?
Or even like your commander. If somebody comes for it, it's just like, no, it's a car. It's not a creature anymore. You can't remove it.
What do you mean?
It doesn't even count. It's a car.
Is that a flying car? We're in the future. Oh boy.
It's got flash.
It's Hullbreaker horror. This is the ultimate, like, this is like a win con in control decks here, especially because you have instants and you're going to be casting them to bounce spells to their opponent's hands or returning permanents to their hands. Ugh.
Yeah, he's very powerful. And in a grindy control deck like this, you do need these big haymaker finishers to close it out.
All right. Well, we have covered some amazing team-ups so far, but we got a bunch left. But before we get into it, let's hear a quick message from our mid-roll sponsors. Ding.
All right, I'm gonna cast Rampant Growth. Chauffeur,
Yes, sir.
find a forest for me, please.
Of course, sir.
Okay, wait, what is happening here?
Isn't it great? I got the idea from Indeed.
The hiring website?
Yeah, when you sponsor a job post on Indeed, they do all the searching for you. Just like you don't want to waste time looking through your library, you don't want to waste hours browsing multiple job sites. But with Indeed, you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Indeed's powerful matching tool gives you a short list of candidates whose resumes match your job description the moment you sponsor a post. It's like hiring at flash speed. Plus, they've got other tools like assessments and virtual interviews to optimize the process from start to finish.
Your forest, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Jordan, if he's making you do this against your will, you can tell us.
I just like the word chauffeur.
Okay, you do you. Now with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that meet your hiring criteria. Visit Indeed.com/CommandZone to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/CommandZone. Again, Indeed.com/CommandZone. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Hi-ho, human friends! We're the Seven Dwarfs. I'm Talkie. This is Worky, Jumpy, Greedy, Shouty, Smiley, and Ted.
What up?
Hi-ho! We're here to talk to you about RAYCON. It's the time of year to make big changes, which can be just as hard as mining through rock and stone. But take it from us, even small things can add up to a big impact in life or on the battlefield. You can start by shaking up your routine with RAYCON wireless earbuds.
I use mine when I mine. They're water and sweat resistant, and upbeat tunes have really helped me keep my energy going.
8 hours of playtime make them perfect for getting through a long day counting my rubies.
It's premium audio and half the price of other brands, so you'll want to buy a pair.
And a spare, and one for me. I'll take a pair.
I got mine in sleek frost white, or should I say, Snow White?
Oh, dwarf humor.
Ready to buy something small with a big impact? Go to buyraycon.com/command today to get 15% off your Raycon order. That's buyraycon.com/command to score 15% off. Again, buyraycon.com/command. Where's Jimmy? He's usually so punctual.
Yeah,
Hey! Sorry about that. I was just getting my deck together, or most of it.
but that's just a really big stack of envelopes.
I prefer to think of it as pre-sleeved.
Well, where's your commander?
Let me check. Tracking says he's in shipping label created.
Jimmy, you really gotta use Card Kingdom. They send all of your cards in one convenient package. No dealing with tons of envelopes or wrangling all those tracking numbers.
And Card Kingdom's shipping is super fast, so you can be sure you'll have that new deck ready before your next game night.
And if anything ever goes wrong with an order, their customer service always goes above and beyond to fix it.
All right, that settles it. I'm using Card Kingdom from now on. But for now, is everyone ready to play?
I guess. Do you even have a keepable hand?
Hang on, I gotta shuffle.
Get your cards in one safe, easy package with Card Kingdom. When you go to cardkingdom.com/command, you can support the show while shopping from Card Kingdom's huge selection of singles, sealed product, and more. Again, that's cardkingdom.com/command.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We are talking about the team-up commanders from March of Machine.
One.
I'm just taking words out now. It's just March Machine.
March Machine. It's mom.
Morrow Machine. There we go. Mark, where you at?
It's the Mark Rosewater Machine.
He is a machine.
we have 5 more team up commanders to talk about in this episode. We're gonna get right into it. The first one is Ghalta and Mavren.
Ooh, big creature, small creature. I like these.
Ixalan. It is 3 green, white, 7 mana for a 12/12 dinosaur vampire with trample. I feel like these should have commas in them. Like dinosaur, also vampire.
Yeah, dinosaur and vampire, not a dinosaur vampire.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Unless they've melded somehow, yeah.
And then it says, whenever you attack, choose one. Create a tapped and attacking XX green dinosaur creature token with trample, where X is the greatest power among other attacking creatures.
Oh, so not Ghalta.
Not Ghalta. Or create X11 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is the number of other attacking creatures.
Gotcha. So Ghalta, part of this, cares about you can do 2 things. You make a dinosaur that cares about the biggest power, or you can make a bunch of 1/1s that care about how many creatures
How many creatures are attacking.
That's the Ghalta and Mavren specialty.
Notably, Ghalta and Mavren do not have to attack themselves.
Yes, this is like
Adeline.
Yeah. Whenever you attack.
It doesn't matter, but it only counts the other creatures, so it doesn't count
You're
itself.
not attacking with a 12/12 trampler. Maybe you're not doing it right.
You should be.
Unless someone's got like a death toucher and you're like, Ghalta's scared.
Or he just came back.
Yeah,
he just came down.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. You can play this like an enchantment and attack that
And
same
then
turn
attack
and do this
immediately.
stuff. Yeah.
All right,
So-
you've got a 7-drop dinosaur in your command zone. How are we getting this thing on the battlefield?
Well, you got green, so you have all your traditional ramp, but you also have ramp that makes dinosaurs cheaper because this is a dinosaur vampire, vampire. Knight of the Stampede, dinosaur spells cost 2 less to cast, and Kinjali's Collar, dinosaur spells cost 1 less to cast.
In decks like this, I always like Goreclaw, Terror of Kalsisma as well. 3 and a green, creature spells you cast with power 4 or greater cost 2 less to cast. And whenever she attacks, each creature you control with power 4 or greater gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn.
Oof. Yeah, Goreclaw is great in this deck because you might want to make huge creatures, or as you wrote in the outline, big token.
Big token.
Yeah, so either making a big dinosaur or a lot of vampires. So if you want to make the big token, then Goreclaw works great with some of these.
Yeah, I want to talk about this a little bit because it feels like this could be a power matters deck or it could be a token deck.
Right.
It's not really going to be both.
Yeah, and you never want to attack and be like, cool, I have 3 creatures or a 7/7. I'm going to make 3 1/1 vampires. Like, no, you want to make that 7/7.
Right. Like, you either want to be attacking with like 11 creatures and make 11 vampires, or attack with like a 10/10 trample.
Make another
and
10/10.
make another 10/10 trample. And those decks don't necessarily look the same. So if you're building Ghalta and Mavren, I would really decide which lane you're going down here.
And there may be
your deck
times
could be synergistic.
still when you're like attacking with 5 creatures in your big version and you want the lifelink.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not like the other option is completely gone.
Right.
But if you only have 1/1s attacking, you're not going to make a 1/1 tapped green dinosaur creature.
Yeah, you want to make 3 of them.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
So just I would say build in one direction or the other one. So let's talk about the big token direction.
Dinosaurs.
First thing you got to put in this deck is Ghalta herself.
Yeah, because Ghalta costs immediately 12 less, or 10 less in this case, to be green should you have your commander out, which is pretty sweet. Defiler of Vigor allows you to cast permanents for 1 green mana less as Phyrexian mana, so that seems pretty good.
Yep.
And then you get to put +1/+1 counters on each creature you control whenever you cast a green permanent.
So it makes your creatures bigger, and it makes your commander cost less, and it's just a 6/6 all on its own.
Yeah. It's cool because, by the way, this triggers with Great Henge. It's a green permanent spell, and Great Henge, like Ghalta, seems like it belongs in this deck.
Yeah, for sure.
Mana Gorger Hydra. This is one of those cards like Forgotten Ancient that just become massive.
It just is a problem. Like, Mana Gorger Hydra says whenever a player casts a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Mana Gorger Hydra.
Also has trample. 2
and a green for trample with a 1/1. And we laugh about Mana Gorger Hydra because it feels slow, but then you play against Mana Gorger Hydra and you're like, thing's a problem, and I don't want to remove it, but I have to.
Really, when I see Mana Gorger Hydra played, I'm more like, do I have a good blocker to stop it from the first like 1 or 2 hits? And then past that, I'm like, please just don't be the biggest threat.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to remove it, but I'd much rather have it going at someone else.
Yeah.
So that's a problem card for people usually when they get hit for like 17 or whatever.
Yeah. And your commander just makes a second Mana Gorger Hydra if you have it on or around.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think getting rid of 1 was going to deal with your problems.
There's another coming. Ashaya, Soul of the Wild, is a great way to make just a big thing. And ramp. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. Non-token creatures you control are forests in addition to their other types.
Gotcha.
So
they're all going to buffer up.
You're going to have to ramp in your green and white deck. You're going to have a lot of lands on the battlefield. So Ashaya is just naturally like a 5-mana 7/7, a 5-mana 8/8, and gives you ramp for some of your other big creatures.
I love this card, Beanstalk Giant, because it is an adventure as well as a creature that's got the same text as Ashaya, no, equal to the number of lands, but you can pay 2 and a green to basically do a rampant growth.
Yeah. Go find a land, it ramps you early, and then you have a big thing once your commander is on the battlefield.
Yeah, and with a 7-drop commander, you're okay playing ramp spells on 4 mana and 3 mana because you just need to get there.
You've got an expensive commander. You've got to get it on the battlefield.
All right, what if we want to get big time power?
Bigger token.
Yeah, bigger. I want a 24/24 Ghalta. How do I do that?
You're in green. Play the new Dominus Zopandrel. Will double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. The tokens you're making have trample. Your commander has trample. A lot of the creatures in the deck are going to have trample.
Yeah.
Zopandrel is a great way to make a absolutely terrifying board.
Yeah, and it does it at the beginning of each combat. So if you're in a tough position, you can just play Zopandrel, and then literally it's like, all right, go to blocks. My Zopandrel is now an 8/12.
Yeah.
Everything to get past that.
Unnatural Growth does the exact same thing on an enchantment for 1 green, 5 mana.
This card is a win the game card with your commander out, right?
I think so.
So you play Exponential Growth with XX green until X end of turn, double target creature's power X times.
Yeah, so this turns your commander into a lethal threat, and it also could buff something else and then make a huge second trampling dinosaur. So like if you cast this for 4 mana, you double your commander's power. It's a 24/24 trample. If you cast this for 6, you double it twice.
Becomes a 48/48 trample.
Yeah, let's say you just have a Defiler of Vigor. It's a 6/6 trample naturally. You double it becomes a 12/12, and then it's a 24/24 trample, and then you make a 24/24 trampling token.
Copy on top of it. Yeah. And again, your commander doesn't need to attack to have that happen.
Yeah. And that creature stays a 24/24 trample.
Oh, you're right. It's equal to whatever X is at the point it gets created.
So, like the Defiler will get small again, but the token you just made will stay big. So I like exponential growth in this deck. It is a sorcery, so be careful when you play it.
Yeah. I also really like this, which is populate mechanic is great. Once you have a token out, make another one. But also, there's some great effects you can get, like Trostani Selesnya Voice. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. Gaining like 48, 24, 12.
Insane.
Yeah, that is just
insurmountable.
Because you are trying to attack. You're not trying to sit back and be like, come at me, bro. You're going for the win. So getting that life gain is a huge deal.
And populating that huge token you just made is enormous.
Right.
Like,
the other part of Trostani is populate.
Like instant speed, 12/12 dinosaur. Cool.
Sundering Growth kills an artifact enchantment and then populates. You're just going to play this anyway, right? Rootborn Defenses gives all your creatures indestructible. Let's say they're trying to board wipe because you're so terrifying. And then you populate too.
Free dino. The kind of draw that this deck wants is power matters draw. So Greater Good is great. In response to a board wipe, you can sack and draw a ton of cards, rebuild really fast. Rishkar's Expertise lets you draw 12 cards and put something into play. Seems good.
Yeah. All right, let's go talk about the Mavren side, which is you're going to create a ton of little tokens. Little boys. So making a wide board here, and now you're going for that larger swing out and maybe kill them with a, an infect card like
Triumph of the Hordes.
Yeah. So Adeline Resplendent Cathar is very similar. It says whenever you attack for each opponent, create a 1/1 white human creature token that's tapped in attacking that player or a planeswalker they control. So anytime you attack, you make 3 1/1s basically. Very powerful.
You can also stack the triggers so that Adeline makes the tokens first, and then you do the Ghalta trigger, and it checks and it sees all of the attacking humans.
Yep. Scoot Swarm
makes a lot of tokens.
This is how you get 80,000 tokens on the battlefield attacking. This has landfall that basically creates a copy of it after you have a certain number of lands, or it just makes a 1/1 insect before then.
I really like instant speed token makers in this deck because I think you're going to want to spend your first few turns ramping. So you want to ramp to your commander. So you ramp. The turn before you can cast your commander, you pass with all your mana untapped. You cast like an instant speed March of the Multitudes or Secure the Wastes or Grand Crescendo, and you make like 6 1/1s. All those spells make 1/1 tokens at instant speed. Then you slam your commander or attack with 6, and then you make 6 new ones.
Yeah, that's sweet.
And that's a board that goes from nothing to
everything.
Terrifying all in one swing, which can be exactly what you want in token decks. You don't want to spend a ton of time building up a board if you can just do it.
Yeah, because you're just asking to get board wiped. And when you have a 7-drop commander, board wipe, single target removal sets you much further back than if you have a 2-drop or a 3-drop commander.
Call the Copper Coats is great for this kind of thing as well.
And then if you're going the Saproling route, Fungal Sprouting seems pretty good here because you get a 3 in the green, put 12 1/1s out if your commander's out.
Yeah, lots.
Yeah, and then you just swing with your commander and all those creatures. Seems pretty good. Rabble Rousing is a new card from Capenna I really like, which is whenever you attack with one or more creatures, you just basically make that many 1/1s.
Yeah, it gives you another trigger, basically, of your commander. Yeah. Except for you make the citizen tokens, except for vampires.
And there's a good chance you'll be able to cast that Hideaway spell under it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
All right, how are we going to win with these tokens? There's so many 1/1s. The classic Champion of Lambholt, make them unblockable.
Yeah, pretty good. And any creature entering the battlefield gets a +1/+1 counter onto Champion of Lambholt, so it's going to be very hard to hit.
I like Archangel of Thune in this deck. It says whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. The vampires you're making have lifelink.
Yeah.
So if you can attack with them, they'll deal 6 instances of lifelink. You'll put 6 +1/+1 counters on all of your board.
Next attack, you make a dinosaur.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Actually, no, you just keep making
Probably
more
just
like
make more vampires.
Best Soul Nourisher. Haven't seen this card in a long time because I just couldn't pay attention when all that came out. It was 1 green and white for a 1/1 human citizen legendary. Whenever one or more creatures with base power and toughness 1/1 enter the battlefield under your control, you put a +1/+1 counter on Bess. And then whenever Bess attacks, each other creature you control with base power toughness 1/1 gets +X+X, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on Bess.
This is gonna be a thick Bess.
thick best. And all your 1/1s are now huge.
Are now huge as well.
Yeah,
and
very
lifelinking. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and if you're playing your Elspeth Sons Champions or your Grand Crescendos to secure the waste, all of these other creatures are also 1/1s, which is pretty good.
Jaheira gives you some ramp. It says tokens you control have tap, add green. So you can make this board. You can use it to cast your commander or attack with what's left.
Nice. Yeah, the tokens can tap now. Forerunner of the Legion is whenever vampires enter the battlefield under control, you can give a creature +1/+1 until end of turn. So make 6 vampires. You can distribute that a bunch or just all into one thing. Pretty good.
Kadira, Caller of the Small, is always good in Selesnya token decks. It just doubles the amount of tokens that you have on board.
Yeah.
Again, explosive token creation, force a board wipe. If they have it, great. If they don't, they die.
Yeah, and then if you have Tideas Juniper Ascendant, this is a card that is green-white, and at the bottom text is really what it is. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. Because you're going to need effects like that in this deck. You're not... playing blue for your reconnaissance missions or whatever that allows you to draw a ton. So
this is definitely like a Tusky deck. This is a the snow snake that draws cards when all your creatures attack. Give them death.
Or on Frostfang.
It's definitely that kind of deck. I really like Tideas because he's like $1 and he will draw for each player you hit. So you could draw up to 3 cards each turn.
That's good.
So he's not as good as the other two, but he is like 1/10 the price.
Yeah, and you're gonna want that. Also in this deck, if you're really going nuts on the token route, you know what's up. Mondrak, Glory Dominus, and Anointed Procession. But we don't need to talk about those cards because they're...
Token cards. Put them in.
Token cards. You know how to do it.
Yeah. This next one's sweet.
Yay, I'm going to read it. It's Goro-Goro and Satoru. It's Grixis, blue, black, red for a 3/4 legendary goblin, human. Whenever one or more creatures you control that enter the battlefield this turn deal combat damage to a player, create a 5/5 red dragon spirit creature token with flying. And then you can pay 1 in a red to give creatures you control haste until end of turn. So that's the Goro-Goro part.
Right.
And the Satoru one is like, hey, I'm a ninja. I like putting ninjutsu things in and getting creatures that enter the battlefield and deal combat damage this turn to get a trigger.
Yeah.
In this case, you get an additional 5/5 red dragon with flying.
That's also the Goro-Goro half.
Yeah.
It's this deck's sweet, and there's a lot of different ways that you can go with it.
Yeah, so let's talk about ninjas. All right, so ninjutsu is an ability that if you have an unblocked attacker, you can pay the ninjutsu ability of a card in your hand or sometimes your command zone and put that card on the battlefield tapped and attacking. And sometimes it'll be a card like Thousand Face Shadow, which is it enters the battlefield tapped and attacking, and you're going to create a token that's a copy of another target creature. Or Prosperous Thief, when it deals combat damage, you make a treasure token. But you want to sneak them in, basically. But it's going to trigger the Goro-Goro thing because it's a creature that entered the battlefield, and it's tapped and attacking, and it's going to deal combat damage, and it entered the battlefield this turn. It didn't need haste.
Yeah.
So you're saving some mana, and you're getting some sweet ninjas on the battlefield.
Yeah, and some dragons.
Yeah.
There's lots of cool ninjas in these colors. Nashi, Moon Sage's Scion is awesome. Yuriko, Tiger's Shadow, Ingenious Infiltrator, Fallen Shinobi. All of these would go in the ninja build in addition to a lot of like 1-drops that have unblockable, basically.
Yeah, Changeling Outcast and all that stuff. So you can have those creatures come back to your hand and then play them again. You also have just haste creatures. So these are creatures that will enter the battlefield and be able to swing that turn, but you also need evasion. So flying is really important in this case. Phoenix Chick, 1/1 flying haste, can't block, and then you can return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. But the play pattern, obviously, is Phoenix Chick out the turn after you play Goro-Goro.
Right.
So it has haste, enter the battlefield this turn, creates a 5/5.
5/5 dragon. Ginger Brute is great in decks like this.
Yeah, it only costs 1 mana, right?
1 mana, it's haste, you can pay 1, and it can't be blocked by any creature unless that creature has haste.
Which is pretty much, it's not going to get blocked.
Yeah.
Shivan Devastator, X and a red for flying haste, enters the battlefield with X1 when counters on it. You can just pay X is equal to 1.
Yeah, pay X and a red. You've got a 1/1 flyer. If you've got a lot of mana and nothing to do, make them big. Attack.
Yeah, this is a great top deck end game as well. Sometimes you can just close out the game.
It's just a fireball on a creature.
Maybe the best card in this deck, though, is this next one.
Ugh, this is the best card in any deck it's in. It's Loyal Apprentice.
It's so good.
This card is so good.
Yeah, so 1 in red, haste 2/1. So this could be the creature that enters and deals combat damage, but also it has the lieutenant ability. So if you control your commander at the beginning of combat, you create a 1/1 colorless Thopter with flying and haste.
So turn 2, Loyal Apprentice. Turn 3, Goro-Goro and Satoru. Make a Thopter. Attack with a Thopter.
Get a 5/5. Yeah, pretty sick.
Pretty good. Kaza Royal Chaser is a flyer with haste. It's a 1/2, and it has an activated ability that makes instants and sorceries cheaper.
Yep.
Just a bonus. Mostly she's there to be flying and haste.
Yep. Maestro's Diabolist is a Grixis card from Capan that's really cool. It's got Death Touch Haste 1/4, hard to block. But whenever it attacks, if you don't control a devil, you make one. And guess what that devil does if it hits? It makes a 5/5.
Gotta block the dragon.
Gotta block that dragon. Yeah.
One of my favorite haste enablers in decks that have Rakdos is Chainer, Nightmare Adept. You can discard a card and you may cast a creature spell from your graveyard this turn. Activate only once each turn. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if you didn't cast it from your hand, it gains haste until your next turn. So this gives your commanders haste.
Ooh.
This gives any creature you cast from your graveyard haste.
Yeah, because you didn't cast it from your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sick.
If you cast it from some sort of exile draw, it has haste.
Yep.
Chainer's sweet.
Yeah, and again, you're in red. You have tons of different ways to give haste. Footfall Crater, I mentioned earlier. Urbrask, the Hidden. Cloak of the Bat. 2 mana. Equipped creature has flying and haste. Equip 2.
That's what you want.
Make them bats so you can get dragons. That makes sense, right? I also like having an ability that allows you to create multiple things and have those multiple things all deal the damage. So Myriad is an ability on a card like El Turo Survivors, which is super sweet. 3 in a red, trample, Myriad, 0/4. As long as it is attacking, gets +X/+O, where X is the number of lands defending player controls.
These
this
are like,
thing hits.
Like 6/4 tramples, 7/4 tramples.
Sometimes like 10/4, 12/4.
Huge.
And you don't even care if it dies, because you swing, it myriads, it creates copies, and then each of those copies, including El Turo Survivors, will get you a 5/5.
Yeah.
Urbrask's Forge lost this a billion times.
So annoying and limited.
Yeah. But basically, on combat, you put an oil counter, and then you make an X1, where X is the number of oil counters with trample and haste. And then it just gets bigger every turn. 2/1, 3/1, 4/1, 5/1.
And they're so obnoxious to block.
Yeah. Because you don't want to trade anything for a 4/1 that's going to go away at the end of the turn. But when that 4/1 turns into a 5/5, maybe you think different.
Now you have to block.
Maybe you think twice.
But it has trample. It's annoying. Manaform Hellkite is great in decks like this. It's 2 red for a dragon. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an XX red dragon illusion creature token with flying and haste.
Yay.
X is the amount of mana spent. So every time you cast a non-creature spell, you make a dragon. That'll make another dragon for you.
Yeah. And Daring Piracy is cute. You make 1/1 red comets with menace and haste creatures. Yeah, it's going to be, sometimes you just can't block a menace creature. Just straight up. And then Brew the Clad. Anytime you're making tokens, I don't want to read all the text on this. You can read it yourselves.
But it turns all your tokens into dragons.
Yeah, you make more dragons. Cool. I also like this next edition, which is copies of cards. So cards that are, again, all the cards have to do in this deck is enter the battlefield and be able to hit someone that turn.
Yeah.
So a card like Jaxus the Troublemaker allows you to discard a card and you create copies of that card that have Blitz. So they're going to draw you a card when they die, but also more importantly, you're just going to be able to get some of those big threats out of your hand quickly and easily and repeat it over and over again with Jaxus.
Yeah. Delina Wild Mage is a great way to make a lot of tokens. You roll dice and you make that many copies with haste. Again, they're annoying to block because they're going away.
Yeah, they're going away. If you got Kiki Jiki in this deck, if you can somehow afford to play a 2 red spell.
It's a pretty red deck.
It's a pretty red deck. And then, of course, you can't have too many legendary creatures either. But Kiki Jiki, again, just kind of like Thopter Lieutenant, right? You can just keep making them over and over again.
If you're doing a token deck, Determined Iteration is a really cool card where if it, at the beginning of combat on your turn, you populate. So if you make any creature token, you can make a copy of it. It gets haste, and then you sacrifice it at end step. And that's only a 2 mana red enchantment.
And if you already have that 5/5 red dragon, you can populate that.
Exactly.
Turn it into another 5/5. Yeah. So you just keep that train going.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to dealing combat damage in this deck, you're already trying to do it. So there's lots of creatures that also benefit you for getting that damage in. Grazilax allows you to draw cards. You can also return it to your owner's hand if for some reason they surprise a block out of somewhere, which is pretty sweet.
Yep.
And then Professional Facebreaker.
Classic.
Any red deck.
Yep.
Because you're trying to hit people. Yeah, Goro-Goro and Satoru is really simple, but I think there's a lot of different ways to build it.
Yeah.
As we just discussed, really haste is the big one here, or ways to get creatures in that hit. I think the ninja thing is cute. I would not over-index on that if you're trying to go for any of the other things. I would say like focus on the ninjas because you're going to want to put in those changing outcasts and stuff.
Ninjas is definitely a different build, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But either way, you're getting dragons.
Dragons, baby. Playing dragon stuff.
And of course, all of the double combats, extra turn stuff in these colors, very good as well.
Really nice.
Yeah.
This next one is one of my favorites, honestly, of the episode. It's Hidetsugu and Kairi.
Ooh, the dragon.
It is 2 blue and a black for an ogre demon, dragon.
Right, it's an ogre demon, dragon.
It's a 5/4 with flying. And when Hidetsugu and Kairi enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards. Then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. So it's ETB Brainstorm.
Nice.
And then when Hidetsugu and Kairi dies, exile the top card of your library. Target opponent loses life equal to its mana value. If it's an instant or sorcery card, you may cast it without paying its mana cost.
Wow. So we even got a little bit of ninjutsu. What's her name in here? With the losing of the mana value.
Like Yuriko-ish.
Yeah, Yuriko. Yeah.
So this is so powerful. It's an ETB and a dice trigger. Both of them are quite powerful. I would think that if in this deck, you just want this thing to enter the battlefield and die as many times as possible.
Totally.
Right? Just it here and dead and here and dead and here and dead. It reminds me a little bit of like a Kaku show.
Well, I mean, you play Hidetsugu and Kairi, you put an Expropriate on the top of your deck, you put a Time Warp, you put whatever, right? A 10 mana something.
Yeah.
And then you just kill it, and then you get that card, and you start winning the game pretty much right then and there.
Right. I would think this deck is full of ways to recur and sacrifice your commander, and then huge hits to smoke your opponents for a lot of damage.
Yep.
Notably, you ignore timing restrictions on the spell, so no matter when it dies, you cast that spell for free.
So yeah, because you can get sorceries off of this. So
Yes.
Village Rites is an instant speed. Deadly Dispute is an instant speed. They're all as additional cost to cast. You sack a creature and do the thing. And then you'll draw 2 cards after, but it's okay. By the time that happens, you've already done the cast the spell off the top of your library.
Right. You've got your dice trigger on top. I would think this deck is just full of sack outlets. You always want a sack outlet available to you when your commander comes down. So you definitely want a high market. You want a Phyrexian tower. You want even Diabolic Intent.
Totally.
Just to make sure you always have a way to sacrifice your commander.
I like the Altar of Dementia as well here because let's say Brainstorm is good when you can use a fetch land to change the top of your library. Because there will be cases where you play stuff, you don't like anything in your hand, you put it on top, you don't want to draw those cards again either. And then you can mill them or find ways to get them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think using as many instants and sorceries as possible for this, so your density is still really high in case you don't have a way to put something really powerful on top. Leaning into instants and sorceries goes a long way.
Now, I don't want to just kill my commander over and over again because it's going to make it more expensive to cast. Is there any other way I can get that dice trigger, Rachel?
Sure is. You could clone it.
Oh my gosh, we're in
It's
blue.
legendary.
What?
You
This
could
is
clone it
nuts.
a lot. And there's a lot of instants and sorceries that do this.
This is, by the way, I think the coolest part of this entire episode because when I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so sweet.
It's so sweet. So, just kick a right of replication on your commander.
You get 5 brainstorms or whatever.
Yeah. So if it was kicked, you create 5 tokens of this creature.
Right. So you get all the ATBs. So you're going to draw 3, put 2 on top 5 times.
5 times.
And then you're going to have all of them die to the legend rule. So you're going to cast 5 things off the top of your library.
Top of your library.
Wow.
It's so fun. So Rite of Replication is great, especially because it's instant and sorcery. Sublime Epiphany is great in a deck like this because you can make a token copy of a creature. The token dies. You could even cast the Sublime Epiphany off of the free and then make a token and do it again.
Yeah, because you don't have to counter something with Sublime Epiphany to cast it.
Yeah.
There's also Quasi Duplicate that allows you to jumpstart and keep making copies. There's just so many ways in blue to do this. Your Phyrexian Metamorphs, your clones. You don't want the ones like Body Double. Oh, not Body. You don't want the ones that Spark Double that create a non-legendary version of it, or like Irenicus's Bioduplication.
Yeah.
So you want to find the ones that you purposefully want to sacrifice the legendary copy.
Right, because you're getting your ETBs and your dies as much as possible.
Yeah.
If you're sacrificing your commander, you're going to want them to come right back to the battlefield, and there's a lot of ways to do this in black as well. Malakir Rebirth, Return to Action, Demonic Gifts, all of these spells pick up a creature, and then when it dies, they bring it right back.
Yeah.
So if you're you could Malakir of Rebirth and then do
sack
a Village Rites
right.
and sack it. It comes back, draw 2.
Get the thing, cast the spell, go all over again. Typically, these types of spells are like combat tricks and limited, but there are more and more cases. We mentioned them a few times now, I feel like, on the show, where the commanders that want to die and come back makes a huge difference. So yeah, lots. And you can always look out for these cards. Usually in most sets, they're going to have a version of it.
There's so many versions,
so yeah,
whether they're 1 or 2 mana. Sometimes they give them lifelink. Sometimes it's a counter, come back tapped.
Yeah, it feels like you could make actually a really good budget build of this deck because you just find crazy huge spells that you usually don't play in Commander, and you can just throw them to the top of your library, play all these limited commons, and then just get the max value out of it.
Yeah, let's talk about those huge spells that we're casting, because that's like the fun part of decks like this, right? I really like Mnemonic Deluge in decks that want to cast big instants and sorceries. It's 6 blue, exile target instant or sorcery.
6 blue. Sorry.
No, blue. 9.
Yeah.
It should be 9 mana. Yeah. For a sorcery, exile target instant or sorcery card from a graveyard. Copy that card 3 times. You may cast the copies without paying their mana cost. Exile Mnemonic Deluge.
Nice.
So this will shoot your opponent for 9.
Yeah.
And then copy one of your other big spells in the graveyard 3 times. Maybe 3 clones.
Yeah, you should win, by the way, when you do that. If you're not winning after casting a Mnemonic Deluge, it's going to, you got to build to winning with that.
Yeah.
Spell Twine is kind of similar. A 6 mana spell that allows you to exile a target instant or sorcery and then copy it. There's also just tons of huge spells that are just one-sided in these colors. In Garrick's Wake, and I think there's a couple of board wipes that are just like, just you, not me.
Yeah.
Normally you don't cast a 9-mana board wipe.
Yeah.
This deck seems like easy peasy.
Yeah, destroy all creatures you don't control. It's like, keep my dragon, because I've brought it back some way.
Yeah.
I've destroyed all of your stuff, and I've dealt 9 damage.
Yeah.
Because of the CMC. Another thing that people include in this deck is hybrid spells, especially 2 hybrid. So Beseech the Queen is very common in decks like this because it's black to cast, or
2/2/2
or 2/2/2 to cast.
Yeah.
But the converted mana cost, the mana value of cards like this is 6. So you only have to pay 3 mana to cast it, but it is 6 off the top.
Yeah.
And it's a tutor.
Yeah, now we've talked about a lot of high CMC spells here, and one of the big problems with deck buildings with this is you can just screw yourself basically by just putting in too many 9-drops, and then you're like, crap, I can't actually do anything because I just overloaded on all these. So what's a way we can get around that?
Modal spells, split spells. Seagate Restoration is a great option in this deck because you could play it as a land or cast it as a 7-mana sorcery. And I like all these split spells, like Commit to Memory is great.
Right. On one side, it's a 6-mana, draw 6, but on the front side, it's just put a spell in, just sort of tuck it a second from the top.
It's a
soft counter.
A quick removal spell. And that converted mana cost is 10, but you only really cast it for 4.
Right. And then you have Consign to Oblivion. Again, this is 5 + 2, 7, but it's just also just a 2-mana bounce spell. So it's just interaction. Yeah. I like that.
Discovery Dispersal is total a 7-mana spell, but you probably cast it for the Discovery side. It's Surveil 2, then draw a card.
Nice. Yeah, so there's lots of cards like this. There's also Said and Done. That again, you're getting the max value of the mana value, but you're also having a card that you can cast reliably.
Yeah.
Top deck manipulation. You have to be able to manipulate the top of your deck. Fetch lands are going to be really important in this deck, or just shuffle effects, because it basically, there will be times when you draw 3, put 2 of your worst cards on top, and you don't want to cast any of them, and then you crack your Fetch or your Evolving Wilds, shuffle it, and just get a new go at it.
Yeah.
And you also have Brainstorm, Telling Time, Brainstone, we mentioned earlier, just all ways to manipulate the top of your deck there.
Diabolic Vision is cool in this deck. It's blue and a black for a sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest on top of your library in any order.
That's cool.
So, especially if you're doing this clone thing, you can stack 4 cards, like you can put them in order, and then you get multiple in a row. Looking at 5 cards is a lot deeper than a lot of these cards look.
There's also like Limdol's Vault, which allows you just to churn through your deck and find the combo you need. And then you got your tutors that put them on top of your library. So you can just Vampiric Tutor into killing your commander and getting whatever you tutored up. Or Mystical Tutor. That seems really powerful.
Yep. Put whatever you want on top of your library. Mystic Sanctuary is a great way to put an instant or sorcery on top of your library.
Great card.
Play a land, boop, Mnemonic Deluge right on top.
Yep. Halimar Depths allows you to sort of operate and scry 3 in a way a little bit to the top 3 cards. You can move them around. Reality Chip, great card that allows you to look at the top card and sort of mess with it and at least know, let's say you've done the shuffle thing, you don't know what's on top, but now you know you can actually use that information to your advantage.
Yeah, I love Reality Chip in decks like this. It gives you so much information to be like, fetch now or don't fetch now. Or draw 2 before you do the dice trigger. It just gives you a lot more control.
Yeah, if we go in the clone option and you have some budget to spare, Scroll Rack is always a classic there. And since he's Divining Top, seems very good generally for decks like this as well.
Yeah. Some really cool options with this deck. I think it's really fun to play. And again, we'll play very much like Kakusho decks of the past, but with blue this time. So you got clones.
Yep. Okay, let's talk about the best art in the entire set, maybe of all time.
So cute.
It's Inga and Esika. Oh my gosh, the cats.
There's cats on a rainbow road.
Yeah, this is nuts. So this is 2 a green and a blue, legendary creature, human god. Creatures you control have vigilance and tap, add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells. And whenever you cast a creature spell, if 3 or more mana from creatures was spent to cast it, draw a card. So everyone becomes a mana dork with vigilance, so that means they're also good attackers. But if you were to cast a creature spell and use 3 other creatures to do the tapping of mana, then you get a draw card on top.
Right.
So great value engine there.
Huge value engine. It turns every body that you make into a mana dork that can also attack that turn, and then you draw cards for your trouble. So I think this deck is going to rely on mana dorks as your primary ramp.
Yep.
Right? Like it says exactly what Inga and Esika want to do, even though Inga and Esika will make it a mana dork.
Yeah, just pay attention to the second line of text. This is a mana dork deck.
I think it just still is, yeah. So you want your Birds of Paradise, you want your Bloom Tender. I think you definitely want mana dorks that are more expensive. Like the 3, I think you want as many creatures that are 3 mana or higher as your curve will allow, because then they start to cantrip.
Oh, right.
So something like Shaman of the Forgotten Ways is 2 and a green, and it taps for 2 mana, and then it has a win con on it. Formidable if you have 11 mana, which is very possible.
Yeah.
It's a biorhythm, so each player's life total becomes the number of creatures he or she controls. Activate this ability only if creatures you control have total power 8 or greater.
Pretty good when you got a bunch of mana dorks.
Pretty good.
But specifically, this adds 2 mana, not just 1, and you're trying to add 3 mana from creatures. You might think when you read this, I need to tap 3 Llanowar elves to do this. It's like, no, actually, you can tap a Shaman of the Forgotten Ways and a Birds of Paradise. And that'll also get you 3 mana total from just 2 creatures.
Yeah, Whisper of the Wilds will tap for 2 green. Elysian Caryatid will tap for 2.
Just requires a creature 4 or greater.
Yeah, which your commander is.
Yep.
So I think these creatures that tap for more mana just make you more efficient.
Yeah.
And especially if you haven't given your creatures haste yet, which you definitely want to be doing. We'll talk about that in a second. It just means that when you're casting creatures, you already have all that mana set up.
Yeah, Gyre Sage, Somberwald Sage, Llanowar Tribe, Gyre Engineer. These are all creatures that tap for 2, 3, or more. This is starting to feel like my Ragged Dragon deck, actually.
It's pretty crazy, I think. Like Circle of Dreams Druid is exactly what this deck wants. It's green, 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 add green for each creature you control. So you can cast any number of creatures, and you'll keep drawing, and you keep drawing, and there's more creatures.
Yeah, this commander kind of feels like a cheaper Great Henge in a way if you're building around it, right? Because the whole thing is you're tapping creatures for something, and that's going to give you card draws when it comes in the battlefield. Yeah,
it almost reminds me of Chulane, and it's not quite Chulane.
Thank goodness.
I mean, but this is an elf ball deck, right? Like the mana spirals, you get more and more and more creatures, and you're drawing cards as you go.
Yeah.
And it feels like it just turns sort of any creatures into elf ball.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention it. We're not going to focus on it, but another way to make mana from creatures is turning your lands into creatures.
Oh, yeah.
It's not as good.
Yeah, it's a little inefficient, but
it's
it
cool.
gets
If
there,
you use like Kamal's Will, it will say until end of turn, any number of target lands you control become 1/1 elemental creatures with vigilance, indestructible, and haste. They're still lands. So now you've made 5 creatures that now tap for mana.
Nice. Okay. So now we have Inga and Esika out. Seems we're in green blue. We can kind of start doing some broken things.
Everything taps for mana, and we have an infinite. We have so many cards we can draw.
So let's use that mana.
Yeah, there's a ton of payoffs for creature like mana dorks. Leyline of Abundance says whenever you tap a creature for mana, add an additional green.
And then 8 mana, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control.
A little mana sink just for your trouble. And speaking of a mana sink, it's Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy.
Yeah, he's got a 7 mana activated ability that allows you to look at the top 5 cards and put cards into your hand. Onto the battlefield, not even your hand.
Oh, yeah.
But also, whenever you tap a non-land permanent for mana, add 1 mana of any type that permanent produced.
Yep.
So now your 2 mana tappers become 3 just with Kinnan out. Kinnan's probably the best creature in the deck.
There's probably some tapping payoffs in decks like this. I have constantly been looking for a deck for Scare Tiller, and maybe this is the one.
Maybe it is.
Whenever Scare Tiller becomes tapped, choose one. You may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield tapped, or return a target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So you can tap them for mana, and you can return lands or put lands into play.
Fallow Sage is a merfolk wizard. When it becomes tapped, you draw a card. Sweet.
Unctus does something similar. Whenever any of your blue creatures become tapped, it says they draw a card and then discard a card.
Yeah,
There's
I like
more,
that.
but that's the important part.
Yep. Daring Thief. Whenever Daring Thief becomes untapped, you may exchange control of target non-land permanent you control and target permanent an opponent controls that shares a card type with it. That's nuts.
It's pretty crazy. You tap it for mana, you untap it, you're like, yeah, I want
Give me
your
that.
Nykthos. Yeah, I'll take here's an island.
Here's an island.
Here's
Yeah. Gimme. Yeah.
Oh, it's non-land permanent. Never mind.
Yeah. Also, if
do
you
that.
if you have lots of stuff tapped, Harvest Season seems great. You get to get a bunch of lands out where these are the number of tapped creatures you control, and Throne of the God Pharaoh, so it's just hitting people and making them lose life for the number of tapped creatures you control.
Yeah. All right, we're tapping, which means we are also
Untapping.
we
Yeah.
got
Did you get it, audience? Did you get it?
Yeah. Intruder Alarm is insanely cracked in this deck.
Yeah. Creatures don't untap during their control zone tap steps, but when the creature enters play, untap all creatures. So your creature taps for 3. You play a creature. You draw a card. It comes in the battlefield. You float the mana. Everything untaps.
This is a creature too.
Oh no! Here we go again.
Draw a card.
Oh, here we go
untap
again.
everything.
Am I winning yet, son?
You're sure trying. Quest for Renewal is very good in this deck as well. It is a Seaborn Muse-ish, but only for creatures on every
Once you
untap.
get quest counters on it, but you're going to be tapping creatures, so it'll happen.
Yep. Seaborn Muse is another great thing in this
Yeah,
deck.
Merc Fiend Liege, Seaborn Muse, they all do the same stuff. There's an infinite combo, it seems, that we found. Combo.
Yeah,
hooray.
there's a lot of stuff going on, but if you have Intruder Alarm in your commander and then enough like 3 green, 3 mana from
the ability to
creatures.
make a creature. Yeah, 3 mana from creatures.
3 mana from creatures, and a Mana War or anything that returns itself to your hand and is 3 mana. So Mana War is 2 and a blue, and when it enters the battlefield, return target creature to its owner's hand. You can return the Mana War itself to its hand.
Draw a card.
Draw a card, cast it again, draw a card, untap your stuff, and now you've drawn your whole deck.
It's Intruder Alarm that's boasted.
Intruder Alarm
Yeah.
is absolutely insane in this deck. So.
Well, obviously, we've seen the power of playing the creature and then being able to use it immediately. So giving your creatures haste, making the creature storm deck is, I think, how you win the game.
Yeah.
So Concordant Crossroads gives every creature haste, but you're holding on to this 1-mana enchantment till the turn you're going to win with it usually.
Right, yeah.
You don't just play this out and go, hey, everyone benefit.
Yeah, it's usually, all right, it is time to storm.
Yeah. Lightning Greaves is great because you can just do the thing where you equip it to a creature when it comes in, and then you can tap it, equip to the next one, and just move it around.
Yeah, it effectively gives everything haste because
Yeah.
it's 0 to equip.
And 1,000-Year Elixir definitely gives everything with activated abilities haste.
Yep. Really, really powerful. It's going to be a storm deck, and you'll win with some sort of big overrun.
Yeah, it's good, this card. It's real good.
It's powerful.
Okay, we did it. We're on the last creature, and this one's also pretty sweet.
It is.
Katilda and Lier. We're on, what plan is this? This is the Innistrad, right?
Innistrad, yeah.
Yeah. So this is Bant, green, white, blue for a 3/3 legendary creature, just human.
Human, human.
Human, human. Human, common witch.
All right.
Whenever you cast a human spell, target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. The flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. So you cast a human, you get flashback on the instant or sorcery. This is a human deck, right?
Yeah. So you do, and then you do have to pay the flashback cost, obviously.
Yep.
It doesn't cast it for free. So you're going to have a lot of humans in this deck, sort of regardless of how you build it.
You better.
But I do think that this is another one that you could build in a couple of different ways. You could build like a human aggro deck that uses blue and the spells as draw engines and ramp and protection, or you could build it more as like a spells deck with incidental humans.
Oh, so you're spelling out and occasionally, play this human, get the spell train going again.
Right. There are a lot of humans that synergize with spells, and then there are a lot of humans that synergize with humans. So the first build, I think, is less powerful, and it's human themed. But
And you're just getting occasional value from
right. Yeah,
flashback,
you're using humans to flashback rampant growths, to flashback swords to plowshares, like spells that you would include in any deck like this, but you're focused on humans as a synergy and as a win con.
Cool.
So there's humans that would go in either of these decks. It's Esper Sentinel, Noble Hierarch, Cathar Commando. These are all just good humans.
Yep. The original Katilda as well works in this case. Safi Eric's daughter. These are all just cheap humans. You can get them out and they do the thing. I do like Noble Hierarch here because this is a Bant deck and it's a human. And
It's a human.
taps for all the colors.
And if you can play a Noble Hierarch, I love to do it. It's such a cool card.
That or Ignoble Hierarch, I'm like, slam dunk, please put in this deck.
I built Jund just to play Ignoble Hierarch. Is that weird?
No, not at all. Not at all. There's also really useful humans. These are just like general good stuff humans. Eternal Witness, Tireless Tracker, Heron Blade Elite, which is, again, just taps for mana and gets bigger when you cast more humans. And then Augur of Autumn as well, which allows you to just get value off the top of your deck.
Yeah, the kind of spells, if you're building a human's deck, if you're focusing on the creature side of it, are going to be like Heroic Intervention.
Keep them alive.
Especially if you have humans with flash. There are a number of them. Rite of Harmony says whenever a creature or enchantment enters the battlefield under your control this turn, draw a card.
Okay.
So it has flashback naturally, but you could flash it back for just green and a blue.
Distant Melody. This is just the tribal draw a bunch of cards, 3 in the blue. Choose a creature type, draw a card for each permanent you control of that type. This could draw you 5, 6 cards. Usually, yeah.
There's a human version of this. It's Mass Appeal. Draw a card for each human you control.
Wait, that's sweet.
Yeah,
I didn't even know this existed.
So
Uncommon from Innistrad? Love it.
So if you pay 3 and you draw like 3 for a human, then you play a human for 1 or 2 mana, and then you pay 3 and you draw 1 for all the humans you have. It seems very good. One I really like is Increasing Devotion.
Oh, this is a classic card.
3 white, create 5 1/1 white human creature tokens. If this spell was cast from a graveyard, create 10 of those tokens instead.
Oh, and you can flash it back for 9 mana, but you don't want to do that.
No, you play a human and flash it back for its mana cost, which is 5. You still cast it from a graveyard.
So for 10 mana, you get basically 15 humans.
Yeah.
That's sick. I really like that a lot.
It seems quite powerful.
Getting around the flashback of other cards. Yeah, that's cool.
Seventh Reclamation actually has the same
type of strategy. Yeah,
if it was cast from a graveyard, you may copy this spell and choose new targets for the copy.
And this is great with your Cathar Commandos and so many other cards you want to return to the battlefield with Seventh Reclamation.
So those seem really sweet in like a more permanent human-based deck. There's a lot of payoffs for playing humans.
Yeah, look at any of the modern decks that do it, or your Rick Steadfast Leader decks. You know, like there are lots of ways to get humans real buff, and plenty of decks have been out there to do it.
Yeah.
Folk Hero.
Check out, Kyler Sigardian Emissary is a very popular human commander. I built a Katilda humans deck. These are all going to give you a good idea of what kind of humans can support each other and make enough of a lethal threat to take over the board.
That is Lieutenant. Gotta love it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's talk about the spells version of this deck now.
Yeah, this is more unique. It's also more powerful.
Of course it is, as it is. One is a creature-based hit-in-the-face big creature strategy. This one is get a lot of value from the flashback and do tricky things and win through a more instant speed game, I would think.
Spells, controlling type of stuff. You probably still win with combat.
Yeah.
But it's going to be one big hit.
Right.
All right. So there are a lot of humans that care about spells, starting with Baral, Chief of Compliance.
Instant and sorcery spells cost 1 less to cast.
Pretty
and
good.
You can also, if it counters something, you draw a card, discard the card. Just why not?
Yeah. Jace Vryn's Prodigy is a human who cares about spells. You draw a card and then discard a card. If there are 5 or more cards in your graveyard, exile him, then return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control.
Yeah, and then it kind of becomes a Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, his backside flashes back spells.
Seagate Stormcaller is a card with kicker that allows you to basically copy instants or sorceries, which is sweet. It's cheap. You can just do it for 2 mana, or you can kick it for 5 for 7 total, and then you can basically copy it twice. So there's a lot of powerful things you can do
But
there.
only copies little things.
Yeah, little things, 2 or less.
But the cool thing about Seagate Stormcaller is you could cast it, and then it gives you the ability to flashback a spell in your graveyard, and you could copy that spell.
Right.
Because it is the next spell that you cast.
Yeah, you can play the new Urza, Lord Protector, in this deck because it makes artifacts instant and sorceries cast 1 less to cast. You probably play the Power Stone and the Might Stone and the Weak Stone then, right?
Yeah, I think you just
because
do.
you can
It's
just make it
fun.
occasional.
One I really like is Devoted Graph Keeper. White and a blue for a human peasant. When he enters the battlefield, you mill 2 cards. Pretty good.
Yeah.
And then when you cast a spell from your graveyard, tap target creature you don't control.
Oh, nice. Just
So
a little controlling.
Anytime you cast a spell, like you flash back a spell from your graveyard, you get to tap something down. Don't attack me with that.
Yep. We already talked about Cathar Commando.
Snapcaster Mage.
Snapcaster Mage is a human and allows you to give stuff flashback as well. It's so good. Snapcaster Mage. It's always going to be good.
Yeah.
It's always going to be good.
All right. So if you're playing a spells deck, spells decks like to, especially a spelly like control deck, spells decks like to move at instant speed. Which
Flash.
means your humans also have to move at instant speed. There are a number of humans with flash, and they're pretty good in this deck.
Okay.
Because then you can flash this in and then cast the Swords to Plowshares at instant speed.
Geesh. That's right.
So like Niambi, Esteemed Speaker.
Okay, yeah. When this enters the battlefield, you can return another creature you control to its owner's hand, and you gain life equal to the mana value of that creature.
Yeah, and it has flash. So you could flash this in, flashback a spell that wouldn't normally have flashback, and return
Also,
another human to your hand.
Snapcaster Mage.
Any human, because that'll trigger your flashback thing again.
That's cool.
Similar to that is Zephyr Sentinel, 1 in a blue, flash and flying. It's a human soldier. When it enters the battlefield, return up to one other target creature you control to its owner's hand. If it was a soldier, put a counter on it. Again, this will return a creature to your hand, which gives you another opportunity to give something else flashback later.
Same thing with Deputy of Acquittals. When it enters the battlefield, you return another target creature you control to its owner's hand. We've got tons of great ETBs here, and this is how you keep the thing going, because the worst situation is you play all your humans, you're done flashing back spells, and you're kind of empty.
Right.
So being able to just keep the wheel turning and get that creature back, play another thing, get that creature back, bounce the original creature that got it right. You can just keep it going from there.
Void Mage Husher is great in this deck. 3 in a blue for a human wizard with flash. When Void Mage Husher comes into play, counter target activated ability.
There's so many games now where I'm like, wish I had a Stifle.
Yeah. To hit planeswalkers that are a problem. To hit Aetherflux Reservoir.
So many things,
There's wild targets for this. But whenever you play a spell, you may return Void Mage Husher to its owner's hand.
Nice. Any spell.
Yeah.
Wow. So you can just hold up Stifle, basically.
Yeah, you can hold up Stifle, and it'll give something else flashback just, for the mana.
Yeah.
Moving at instant speed is going to be a big deal in this deck, especially because your flash humans allow you to flash back counter spells.
Oh boy. So yeah, normally you're like, okay, Swords of Plowshares, Path to Exile. Obviously you're going to want to flash these back and kill things with it. But what about flashing back a Dovin's Veto?
Yeah. Like, in response to your spell, I'm going to flash in
Cathara Commando, blow something up, recast Dovin's Veto, counter that. Sorry.
Oh, God. Yeah, flashing back counter spells is so powerful.
Yeah, because most times people are like, we just have to drain the spells out of your hand in order to beat this person.
Nope, now you have two.
Now you have two.
It sort of becomes a Kess deck.
Yeah. But with white instead of red, I guess.
Right,
Yeah.
See the Truth is a 1 in a blue for a sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put one of those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. If this spell was cast from anywhere other than your hand, put each of those cards into your hand instead.
2 mana draw 3.
2 mana draw 3 if you cast it from the graveyard. We haven't said it out loud, so I do want to be clear for those who haven't played much Snapcaster Mage. Casting a human doesn't change the timing restrictions of the spell you give flashback to. So if you flash something in at instant speed, you can only cast an instant.
Yeah.
You can't flashback a sorcery at instant speed.
Yeah.
Because you're giving it the ability to be cast from the graveyard.
Yeah, so when you're doing it on other players' turns, don't think you can see the truth. You know, you have to be able to do it to an instant to cast it that turn.
Yes.
Before the flashback goes away.
You can flash it back on your turn, but it has to obey timing restrictions.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Lots of great spells to put in this deck. Controlling spells generally.
Yeah, Secrets of the Dead, whenever you cast a spell from your graveyard, draw a card. So that's your engine to sort of keep yourself going.
Yep.
Wrath Weatherlight Stalwart, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you can tap 2 untapped creatures to draw a card. So again, you're going to have a lot of creatures out, you're flashing them out, you just have lots of utility. Archmage Emeritus, cast or copy, draw a card.
Is a human.
These are your engines to keep the thing going.
Monastery Mentor, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, make a 1/1 white monk creature token with prowess.
This is a win condition.
Those aren't humans, but Monastery Mentor is.
And they have prowess, so the more times you cast spells, the bigger they get. Murmuring Mystic does basically the same thing, but gives you blue bird illusion creature tokens when you cast instants or sorceries.
And Thalia Geistcaller says, whenever you cast a spell from your graveyard, make a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying.
Very nice.
Very powerful.
Okay. Combo time?
Yeah, combo time. You're playing, this is a wizard deck. You're playing Bant wizards, essentially.
Yeah.
A lot of the humans that we've been talking about are also wizards, which means it's a Narumeha deck. Narumeha's Master Wizard is 2 blue for a human wizard with flash. When Narumeha enters the battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Other wizards you control get +1/+1. Narumeha sort of famously goes infinite with blink spells.
Yeah, Ghostly Flicker, Illusionist Stratagem, Blur, all kind of do the same thing, right?
Yeah, so it's you can get infinite ETBs on Narumeha, and you can use her to flash spells back. It's
over and over and over
so
again.
every time, you don't get them every time she enters because it's a cast trigger.
Right.
But you do get infinite like creature ETBs. You do get infinite casts, which with something like Archmage Emeritus
Draws your deck.
or infinite copies. Excuse me, with something like Archmage Emeritus will draw your whole deck. There's a lot of payoffs for Narumeha. So and it fits very naturally.
Fits well into the deck.
Yeah.
I think if you want to just find a cool human tribal commander with some sweet, you just think that you need to cast Swords to Plowshares a couple more times in your games, then this is a great way to do, I think, a balanced human deck. And then if you want to push it into the powerful territory, you definitely can.
Yeah. There's a lot of room for customization and creativity in Katilda and Lier.
Okay, that's going to wrap it up for part 1 of the commanders, but we still have some more stuff to talk about, including what we think is our favorite commander and the most powerful commander. So I'll go first. I think my favorite commander has got to be the one that is in my colors, blue, black, and red, and it makes dragons. It's Goro-Goro and Satoru.
Yeah,
it's easy.
Dragons. It's such a Jimmy card.
Who doesn't want to make 5/5s and then give them haste and another attack step? That seems sweet.
That's tricky and explosive. It's a very cool card.
Yeah, and 3-mana commander is always fun.
I like a lot of cards that we've talked about today, and it's really hard to choose one. I think the one that gets me most excited to figure out what the 99 looks like is Baral and Kari Zev.
Okay.
Because it's so open-ended, and there's a lot of really powerful, sort of strange things you can do with it. So I think that's probably my favorite build around. But there's so many cool ones.
Yeah, there are a lot of cool ones in this episode, I think.
I mean, Djeru and Hazoret is so powerful.
Yeah.
I think making Borborygmos and Fblthp interesting and
that
fun
really
to play against. You can do some really cool stuff with.
Yeah, we barely even touched upon the fact that you can tuck it into your library. There's probably some fun things you can do there too.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Baral and Kari Zev, that's actually my vote for the most powerful commander from Mom, because I'm just thinking about, expropriate and time stretch and stuff like that. And typically when you're able to cast 2 things or instant speed, cast a bunch of things for free and take over the game in a single turn rotation, that to me screams combo, infinites, shut down the game type of stuff.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think my most powerful is probably Inga and Esika. I don't think it's as powerful as Tulane. I don't think it's like quite as powerful as Kinnan, but it does put me in that space.
Yeah.
And I like those are the kind of things that I would expect from a deck like this.
Right.
Extremely explosive, like big mana, huge draws.
Kill, win, win.
Yeah, it definitely gives me vibes of like creature storm decks that take 25-minute turns. So I don't know if it's going to have the most powerful like 99, but I do think Inga and Esika offers a ton of value.
Well, if we both build Baral and Kari Zev, we can see if it is more powerful.
Yeah.
All right, to the listener, what do you think of the new Mark Rosewater of the Machine team up commanders? I mean, March of the Machine, sorry. Are you planning on building any of these? Don't forget, we're going to have another episode where we cover the rest of them coming up soon. So maybe there's one in there that you are excited for. Let us know if there's any synergies or combos we missed. What can you do with that Borborygmos and Fblthp tuck ability? Let me know.
Yeah, don't forget we have another team up episode, but we also have all of the Phyrexian commanders are still to come.
Yeah,
so
lots.
keep an eye out if you want to play the bad guys as well.
Wow, indeed. Although you could be a bad guy if you play Inga and Esika the way you were just talking about.
There's plenty of ways to play these like a bad guy.
Like a bad guy too.
If you saw any cards that you liked in this episode that got you excited to start building, please support the show while you're shopping and go to cardkingdom.com/command. Card Kingdom has a huge selection of all of the cards you are looking for, so you can make sure that you're getting exactly the printing and exactly the condition that you're looking for. We know sometimes commander players are very specific about the cards that go into their deck, want them all to match as much as possible, but you could also be shopping on a budget and go more for a damaged one or a heavy played card and save yourself a couple of dollars. Then they're all going to show up on your front porch in one tidy package so you can start building and sleeving and playing right away. Again, go to cardkingdom.com/command to support the show while you shop.
And go to ultrapro.com/command to get the accessories to deck out that. So you're getting 2 packages now, right? One from Card Kingdom and one from Ultra Pro. Ultra Pro one has the sweet playmat and the sleeves and the deck box, so you can take it to your next live event. Ultrapro.com/command has a bunch of great deals as well. You can find 10%, 20%, up to 50% off certain products. And the only way to find out is just by going to the website or signing up for their newsletter. Every time I get that email, I instantly click it just to see what's up. And, sometimes I don't buy anything, but sometimes I'm like, hey, wow, that binder is now 30% off. I've been looking at that for like 2 weeks. Perfect. get it into your cart, ship it on over, and you are protecting your cards with the products that Josh and I have been trusting for almost over 2 decades now, because they've been around for quite a while. And another reminder, we are going to be at MagicCon Minneapolis. Rachel, myself, Josh, and a bunch of the team here will be there. We'll be doing game nights live once again, as well as signings, meet and greets. We'll be playing Commander with people. If you want a chance to hang out with us, meet us, go to our live show, make sure you get tickets. It's from May 5th to 7th. We'll have all the links in the show notes. And another note as well, again, we are looking for freelancers right now at the Command Zone. So if you would like to work part-time for us and have the chance to apply, check out all the information in the more description box, show notes below the show.
Before we go, we want to say thank you to the huge team at the Command Zone that makes this possible. So thank you to our amazing team. It's Damon Lentz, Arthur Meadowcroft, Lady Danger, Manson Lung, Craig Blanchett, Josh Murphy, Jake Boss, Jordan Pridgeon, Sam Waldo, Gaurav Galati, Jamie Block, Mooch Trafford, Evan Limburger, Gabriel Pozos, Megan Yip, Eric Lem, and Josh Lee Kwai.
Josh Lee Kwai. All right, everyone, thanks so much for sticking through this set review. We got more coming up for you soon, so hit that subscribe button, do all that cool stuff, and we'll see you on the interwebs, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Whoa.
Whoa, do it. It's... Cut.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @Josh Lee Kwai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.